What is up, people? Good evening. Welcome to episode 22. Yeah, that last prank call episode we did was so much fun. I'm so glad we did that, and I hope you guys are too. We are absolutely going to be doing more of those. In fact, I want to do so many more of them that we actually had a Google form made for submitting prank calls, for submitting your friends for prank calls. So if you go back to that replay of the last live stream we did with the prank calls, you'll see a new Google form in the video description. Instead of emailing now, we're just doing it all by Google Forms. It's going to be much easier for you, and it'll guarantee that your prank to your friend is much funnier. So if you haven't seen that yet, maybe revisit that replay and check out the Google form link we have in the video description now. Looking forward to tonight. We'll be taking callers for about 3 hours and just seeing what we get into. We're just going to listen for about 3 hours. And, we'll do a little talking, but mainly we just, we have no idea what's going to happen here. That's part of the magic. Today it was my birthday today. And I wanted to start off by showing this amazing image that our mods had made for me today in honor of my birthday. I was totally not expecting it, but it was too funny not to show on the stream. So here it is. This is what bumped my lamp. This is the image that my amazing group of mods, Offcore, Noda, Jake Cooper, Easy Cheesy, and Math Geek and Slinks had made for me. Grandmaster Toaster. I just thought this was too good not to show. So yeah, but yeah, we have a lot of toast on this show, so I thought that was so great. Thank you guys so much. I was not expecting that at all, and I got so much laughter out of that today. It's hilarious. And they told me that an actual piece of bread was harmed during the making of that photo. Which, it's hilarious. Yeah. Nothing really to announce tonight, so we're going to just dive straight in. Phone lines are opening. Get your phones ready, and we will get ready to start taking some callers. Really looking forward to this. Also, I will say, if you missed the prank call stream, we are going to be not only doing more prank call streams, but we're also going to be doing more just in general, more live streams that are fun and more juvenile like that, because we got to balance out this thing that we're doing here with Anonymous Live. I realize it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I can't stop Anonymous Live. It's exactly what I wanted to come back doing. So it's not going anywhere, but they're late at night, so if you want other things goofier during the day, those will be coming. Keep an eye out for that. Again, phone lines are opening. They are open as of now, so we will hang here until calls start coming in, and we'll take the first caller I happen to pick up. If it's your first time calling, press 1 at the beginning menu to get some instructions. Don't just jump straight into the call. That's a great way to get toasted. Just a fair warning. Here we go, taking our first caller. Oh, lost him. All right, waiting. I think I turned him off accidentally. I'm sorry if I hung up on that last caller. I've got too many things going on this tiny screen. I really do need to flesh out this user interface I have. I have way too many things going on this tiny screen, so I accidentally fumble around and click on the wrong thing all the time. But I don't want to cover this desk up with monitors for obvious reasons. So I'm really sorry. I just accidentally toasted that first caller. Actually, we'll just play the toast sound. It wasn't a proper toast, but since we're waiting, might as well play the toast sound. And honestly, if any of you are listening to that phone menu recording, please do that before calling in, because that is more valuable than just getting here on the stream, because we've had increasing amounts of people calling in and not knowing what they're supposed to talk about in the last couple episodes. We had a lot of toast last time, so don't hesitate to, there's no rush. You can please take all the time you need to listen to that recording. It's there for a reason. I wonder if I need to reboot these lines. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, this is my first time doing this. I'm very anxious. How are you?
Oh, it's understandable, but no need to be anxious. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. First off, I wanted to say happy birthday.
Thank
I
you.
hope you had a good day today.
Yeah, it was great.
And I wanted to call in and talk about some of my social anxiety.
Okay.
Thought that'd be a good topic to start on.
Yeah.
For a long time now, I've struggled with making friends and speaking with people, and I've never really fit in. And I try my best, but I don't know, I'm very anxious right now. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Just take a second. Why don't you take 5 seconds, take some breaths. You don't have to do it audibly, but you can pull the phone away. If you need to just take 5 seconds and collect your thoughts, that's totally fine. No pressure.
I've been thinking about calling in for the last few streams because I have a bit of baggage, I'll call it, with family and other issues. But making friends and bullying has always been a really big issue of mine. I have autism and I have issues. And the hardest thing for me is trying to fit in and get along with people. And I've been made fun of, I've been criticized, and even by my longest friends, I never found out until recently that they never liked me for who I was because of my disabilities or because of my issues. And I have the hardest time, quote unquote, fitting in. And my parents recently have gotten divorced, and my father hasn't been treating me the best. And it's a lot. And I just thought about calling in to hear from you, because I feel that would help, because I haven't been able to really speak to anybody about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for that outcast feeling, feeling like a pariah or a misfit or an outcast. That is, I think, what you're going through is not, you're not the only one going through that. I bet you there's a lot of people on this stream that can relate with that. We've had a lot of people calling in, going through autism, going through feeling like exactly what you just said, like they're having trouble relating with people. People don't, we've had a lot of people call in saying they feel like they have to wear a mask in order to get friends, and then anytime they try to show their friends who they really are and take that mask off, people don't like them. And so I think you've called a good place, because you're in good company here. I certainly know what that's like. I know that a lot of the people listening to this know what that's like. So to the chat, I would say if you can begin, if you can share anything as we're talking here with this caller that you think might be valuable, even if it's just yeah, I feel like that too. I feel like whenever you guys do that, for these callers to go back in the chat and see how many people in the chat feel that way. It can be really reassuring. So if you guys have anything like that you can share, even if it's just a simple couple words that the caller can go back and revisit. And I would ask you, the caller, like, please try not to focus on the chat because it may be very distracting. It may derail our conversation. But, it will be there for you afterwards. We leave the chat up always as a replay. So it will be there for you. But, with all that being said, I'm really glad he called because this is a real problem. And, a lot of people live under this, a lot of people, it can seem especially if you're on the spectrum, and I don't know if I'm on the spectrum, so I don't know how much I can actually relate to you. I've always wondered if I am on the spectrum. I've never had a test done, but I'm relating to what you're saying. So what I'm about to say is going to come from that. But I just want to comfort you and let you know that you can relax a little bit. I sense some tension in your voice. I don't want you to feel anxious. You called you're in good company here. The chat's already lighting up for you. So I feel that you, again, you've called a good place and there's no need to feel anxious. You can feel totally comfortable. And I want to hear more from you. Tell me more about this.
I really do.
This man.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to hear more specifically. I want to hear more about what it feels like for you. I want to hear about the friends you do have, and how real you can be with them. And do you have any friends that you can unmask with that appreciate you unmasked, and things like that?
Recently, like a lot of my life, I haven't really masked myself. Like I'm a big Radiohead, if you want to call it that, for music. I love watching movies, specifically horror movies. I grew up playing with Pokemon cards and like a lot of things that younger kids did. And for some reason, like I would always be attacked on that. And there were times where I would mask how I felt, and I would build like this fake personality around me with like some people would be talking about something. I'd be like, oh yeah, I know what that is. And next day I'm Googling it and reading stuff on it just to like feel like, oh yeah, I understand that, even though I have no idea what they're even talking about. There are a solid 3 people in my life that I can actually feel like myself around, and that is my wonderful girlfriend in my relationship,
Great.
my mother, and one of my sisters.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that's great. I'm glad you have those people. I'm just listening. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But I've gone on like online social apps, like other ones that are similar to how your stream is, like Omegle and a handful of these other things to try and make friends. I've biked miles to meet with people and try and speak with people. And I was just at a store today with this new friend of mine, and now they're texting me about an hour ago, like making me feel bad when I was just there trying to do my own thing. And I've seen them there a couple of times. And then anxiety kicks in, like, oh, am I making this person uncomfortable? Did I like piss them off in any way? Did I do something wrong? And the anxiety and overthinking, especially on the spectrum, something that a handful of people don't know is it's really a struggle in social cues, because we all look at it in a different way. Because we could see, like, if I was there sitting with you or any of the amazing people in chat, I'm on the other side of the room, but I could just see the chat blowing up about it, and I appreciate whatever anyone is saying right now. I'll read back on it, but thank you. And I could be sitting with anybody, and they could just be looking at me and I'm having a conversation, and if they like dot their eyes away for a second, or if I look down, I worry like, oh, am I upsetting this person? Am I worrying this person? Are they uncomfortable? And that's going through my head constantly, even with my own family. And
Right.
some days, like, and I wouldn't never want to say this straight to my girlfriend, but like some days I just like feel like a burden, or I feel like I'm upsetting her with me, or that I'm doing something wrong. And some days I just, inside me, I feel like I should go off, I should sit alone. But she's like the only person I could truly go to that doesn't shame me for who I am, if that makes sense.
Right. Sounds like you're very perceptive.
Yeah, I try to have a good outlook on things. I don't pay attention to the news, or I don't pay attention to a handful of that type of stuff. I'm very in a circle, like a bubble. And I have people close to me in that bubble and people outside. And I try and keep those people close. Excuse me. Even if there are times where I do upset them, or if I do something wrong, I always try to correct it. But there's always that small voice in the back of my head saying like, oh, you effed up, you did something wrong. And that never escapes me, even with the closest people in my life.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I want to highlight something from the chat. This comes from Garbafi in the chat. They say, there's an interesting solace that comes with the realization that people tend to focus more on their own thought processes over how you're behaving. And there's some interesting tangents that can come out of that thought. I think that's true. I do think that, call it average people, aren't really thinking the way that you're thinking in a conversation. Most people think about themselves, what they're going to say next. They're not really paying attention to the kinds of things you're describing. Like you mentioned, you notice if someone looks down for like 3 seconds or, a few seconds. I can't remember the exact time interval you mentioned, but you notice like if somebody disengages even remotely, you pick up on it. There's like this hypervigilance of or hyperperceptivity, hyperperception you have in a conversation, and I wonder if that comes from your autism. A lot of people on the spectrum, they have more brain bandwidth. That's why there's so many brilliant people on the spectrum, like Temple Grandin. A lot of people think Steve Jobs died before the DSM criteria was revised, but a lot of psychologists believe Steve Jobs was autistic according to the new DSM criteria. Mm-hmm. All these brilliant people were autistic. I just gave only 2 examples. You can go find like lists of hundreds of people that would have qualified by the new DSM criteria. But my point is not to bring up famous autistic people. The point is that it's been proven that if you're on the spectrum, your brain works differently and it can absorb more information. You actually are taking more in than other people. And so suffice to say, your brain works faster and you will pick up on other things that, somebody who's not, somebody who's neurotypical isn't going to pick up on. So makes me wonder, you mentioned you notice if you're in a conversation and someone's just even remotely disengages, and that sends you into a spiral of all these different negative thoughts about what you could have done. Mm-hmm. and what I'm just relating to that so much because I these are the kinds of things that make me wonder if I should get tested. But the truth is that like no matter a diagnosis can be helpful, but you can also even if you didn't have a diagnosis, even if you didn't know you were autistic, you would probably you would definitely still feel that way. You probably it's just more helpful for you that you have that diagnosis, because now you can know that there is a difference in the way that people perceive you versus the way you perceive them, because you're able to perceive them and yourself at the same time. Whereas the other person, if they're neurotypical, can only perceive themselves. They can't perceive you at all. They don't notice if you look away for 5 seconds. You know,
Mhm.
you know, they might notice if you look away for 5 solid seconds, but you know, if your eyes shift for a second, like, you know, they're not going to notice. My point is that I'm not trying to get granular about experiences. My point is just that, you know, I'm empathizing with you that, yeah, there probably is a difference. And it makes me wonder more. I would love to hear more about these positive people in your life that do seem to get you, and what those feel like for you, because, you know, my gut says that those feelings of you know, feeling like a misfit or different, it probably won't go anywhere for the rest of your life. Your brain will probably always be that way. But it's kind of a gift if you can learn to harness it and not let it overtake you. If you can appreciate the fact that your brain is like this fiber connection of in terms of bandwidth, and then other people, like a neurotypical person, can't take everything in that you're taking in. I imagine that's probably why you feel like a misfit. But I wonder if there's a way for you to see that in a more positive light, and to kind of let the people go in your life that, not like let them go, like don't talk to them again, but let them off the hook a little. I wonder if there's a way for you to let them off the hook mentally a little bit, so that you can just, you know, because you may only be able to connect with those people on a very superficial level. That's my hunch. But I just spent a long time talking. I want to hear you talk more about the people that you do connect with and what that feels like for you.
I would say the closest person that I connect with on a very personal level would be my girlfriend. I've been with her for what'll be almost 2 years, near the end of this year. And I talk to her on a daily basis, and she's really helped me, like, out of my shell in that type of, like, metaphor. And she's helped me see better things in myself. She's helped me see better things in what's around me. Because when people would be like that towards me and be that negative towards me, it was always like to myself. But when you're around yourself for so long, at least how I see it, when I'm around myself for so long, I don't realize if there's things that I do wrong or things that I shouldn't be worried about. Like, I shouldn't have to go out in public and worry about the way the person at the cash register looks at me, or if I go to this store to go ask about a job interview, I shouldn't worry about them seeing me for the second or third time within a 2-week basis.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the very minute details that bother me. And I've struggled with that. Like, I got diagnosed with autism, specifically PDD, when I was 4 years old. And I wasn't told until I was about 13 or 14 when I went to a school for children with special needs. And I still didn't even understand that I would have ever known that I had autism. And yeah, I grew up watching your videos, and I'm not going to talk about that too much because I don't know, it feels kind of egging you on about it, and I don't want to, like, annoy you. I'm sorry, but
Oh, it's not about annoying me. It means so much to me. It's just about, you know, respect. We have limited time to do these streams, and we want to keep the focus on being able to connect with people to talk about deep stuff. It's not that it annoys me, just to be very clear.
of course.
Of course, I appreciate it. It means so much to me, all the support here. So just to be very clear about that.
Of course. And Sorry, I blanked out.
You were talking about getting this diagnosis when you were 4 and not discovering it till you were in your teens, and then you mentioned um, the experience of noticing how certain people look at you in certain ways, and it's hard for you, just like even the slightest look, even the slightest weirdest look from somebody at a cash register can send you in this spiral because you're picking up on something. I mean, you maybe my gut when you said that was that maybe you're picking up on maybe you are picking up on something negative. Maybe you are picking up on like that person's bad day or that person's bad year or that person's hatred of their job or it could be any number of things, but it makes me want, like, you seem to have this hyper perceptivity or perceptiveness of other people's feelings. And most people don't have that. It's like this superpower that you have. But anyways, yeah, that's you. I don't know if that jogs your memory or not.
Yeah. Like I pick up on very small things, and it will spiral me down into anxiety. And back to like social anxiety and like issues with making friends. Uh, I've always been worried to leave my own house at points, like disassociation, like away from like everything. And I was like that for years. And occasionally my mom will like take me somewhere or take me to do something. I'll apply for another job or something like that. And whatever people are there, like if I get approached by someone, and this happens a lot for me for some reason, they'll approach me like, oh, do you need help with anything? How's your day going? Do you need help with this? And there might be like a 10-15 minute break between that, but for me it feels so constant that I get overwhelmed and I just like step away without saying anything. And I can't really get along with other people around me unless it's within a similar interest group. Like I can't just walk into a convention and be around, hundreds of other people, and I would never be able to know if I could click with one person that has at least more than three interests with me. And that's what makes it so hard to walk up to people and socialize with people.
Mm-hmm.
But one escape I have used is virtual reality. And there's a very popular VR game. I'm not going to get into it. But there are specific areas in that community where you meet with people with similar interests to yours and you make friends with them. And some of them, one of my longest friends, has been friends with me for about a year and a half now, versus I'll meet another person and we'll hang out 2 times somewhere else, and then I will never hear from them again. And I've been playing on it for years now. And when I didn't have my relationship, or when I built this super strong relationship with my family, especially with my mother, I just felt like this derealization and this melancholy, like taking the headset off and getting out of the house, because I wouldn't have anyone to socialize with. I wouldn't be able to go up to people so easy. I wouldn't be able to exactly fit in because I'm not in this specific realm to get along or fit in with people that have a similar interest of mine. So
I see.
coming at it's like this balance over the last few years of trying to get out and doing things versus staying cooped up in my house, only calling my friends and sitting behind a headset for hours late into the night because it became so hard to socialize with people. And I know a lot of people are younger, and I don't typically say this, but it's not hard. It's not easy for me to get along with a lot of people in this generation. I grew up around adults. I grew up around older music. I grew up around much more harsh environments. So I don't really socialize or match with the newest TikTok interest or the next biggest YouTuber because I watched you since I was 6, 7, and a handful of other YouTubers for the longest time now. And I don't know.
How old are you?
It's just like, huh?
How old are you?
Am I allowed to share that?
Yeah, you can share the age. Yeah. It would be helpful, actually. I won't ask your name. Please don't share your name, your location, but the age is actually helpful.
I'm only 17.
Okay.
So.
You're very well spoken for a teenager.
Thank you. I can't believe the quote-unquote balls to even, talk this much because I'm profusely, sweating right now. I'm so scared.
Don't be scared. No need to be scared. You're in good company. We're all here because we want to be here with you, and we're all glad you've called in. The chat's lighting up for you. So just rest assured that you're in a safe place. There's no judgment here. We have so many people calling in with these kinds of issues that just want to talk about them. So I'm happy you've called in. I think this is a fascinating conversation, particularly because, you're talking about not only something that you won't be able to change about yourself. I mean, you can change your weight. You can change your diet. You can change habits. You can change your job. You can change your marriage. You can change all kinds of things in life. You can't change if you're autistic. You can't change the way your brain works. You can't change the amount of electricity that runs through your brain. You can't change the bandwidth of your brain. You seem to have this beautiful mind that has so much bandwidth and can take in so much all at once, and it seems like it's hard for it not to overwhelm you. Most people don't have that experience. Most people don't have your experience. Most people don't feel overwhelmed by their thoughts. Most people don't feel overwhelmed if a cashier is having a bad day and happens to just glance at you the wrong way when they're handing you your change. Most people don't think about that stuff. And it's, I get that. I relate to a lot of what you're saying. This is, I've always wondered if I have some kind of disorder, or some, I have epilepsy runs in my family. I don't have epilepsy, but I've never had a seizure or anything. But epilepsy is also this increased amount of electricity in your brain. So I've wondered if I've got some kind of weird experience that's not normal, because I pick up on things like that too. I've learned to curb it. I will. You're 17, so I want to reassure you that these things will get easier to manage. I feel confident saying that to you. These things do get easier to manage. You'll learn who your real friends are. You'll learn who you can be real with. You'll learn who you can't be real with, and that's going to take a long time. You'll learn how to not get your feathers ruffled if you have a bad exchange with a cashier or, anyone in public. People. The truth is, people are going to be insensitive. They're going to be perceived by you as being insensitive because people don't think about how they're coming across all the time. They also don't think about how They don't think about you. They might think about like if you say something really offensive to them. They might think about how you make them feel if you say something they don't like, or say something that is like, whoa, like that was all, like he just said that, like for you it's like a small look that somebody gives you. But I'd imagine based on what you're saying that you're not easily rocked by words. Like somebody could tell you to, fuck off or something, and you'd probably be like, okay, well, so what? Like I'd imagine that like a subtle bad look is worse for you if that person doesn't actually address it and doesn't actually tell you what's going through their head. I imagine that's a lot harder for you, and tell me if I'm wrong, but from what you're saying, my guess would be that it's a lot harder for you if somebody just simply gives you a bad look and doesn't address it and doesn't like tell you how they're really feeling than it is if they tell you precisely how they feel.
I don't know if anyone's ever actually given this exact quote, but I live by how actions speak louder than words.
Right.
And how, like, if someone is upset, I can't see that. Like, I could walk over here and see you on my screen. Hi there. And you're sitting calmly at your desk, you're listening to me, and I still appreciate that a lot. But if it was just me regularly off the phone tuning into the stream, you said it was your birthday and you had a great day, and I'm glad that you did, but not to be rude, I could never get an exact emotion or an exact like feeling from you. And it would probably send me into question like, oh, so and so. But I understand in this situation that you're listening in, and again, I appreciate that. I'm probably gonna say it like 20 more times. I hope I don't, but I really do appreciate it. But
I guess I don't follow what you mean. What are you getting at?
Huh?
I guess I don't follow what you mean by all that. What do you mean by that? I don't pick.
Like I could see people, and whether they're upset, I can never pinpoint if they're upset or if they're having a good day or a bad day. It's until something like happens or they're blatantly putting it out there, like a cash register is having a shitty day, then that's putting it out there. But it's hard for me to step up to people if I don't see them having a good time, or if I don't see them upset, if they're just like sitting alone at a lunch table or something. I would never have the courage to step up and talk to them, because they could hit me with anything, and that could spiral me into like, oh shit, like this. And I'm trying to do better with that. Whether it's in my control or if it isn't, again, I still don't know the answer to that, but I'm definitely trying my best.
If your point is that you're questioning whether I actually had a good birthday or not, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but if that's your question, then I would just say, like, I turned 35 today, so your birthday at 35 means much less than it does when you're 17. Like, I cleaned my house today, and then I had a great Indian dinner. I had an amazing Indian dinner with my kids. We feasted. It was an amazing dinner. So it was a great day because I got to see my kids and we had an amazing dinner. But yeah, I mean, my actual day was just like I just cleaned my house and did some laundry. That's basically it. So yeah, like I'm not sure if that was your point, but it sounds like you picked up on the fact that I said it was a great day and it didn't seem to make sense to you. Is that your point?
No, it's just my point I was trying to get across is you could have had any type of day, but based on posture or based on facial expressions, it's hard for me to read people. That's practically what that meant. But sorry for the confusion.
No, there's no confusion. Also, to be very clear, there's a very different vibe here on these streams than anywhere else on my channel, as if I even need to say that. You know, it's late at night. I try my best to not keep to keep this very calm. Like so many people are used to seeing videos of mine, like where I'm being very loud and rambunctious and flamboyant, and I go out of my way in this place to keep it calm and welcoming. So because I realize people all over the world, people of all walks of life with different neural chemistry and different problems are gonna want to call in, and if I don't, if I don't keep this very calm and somewhat predictable homeostasis, if it's wild and crazy and rambunctious, like in the prank call live stream, I had like the lights going crazy and stuff. Like if we were doing that here, I guarantee you, a third of the people would feel comfortable calling in, because it would just feel too chaotic and so I go out of my way here to keep things calm. And I try not to be too expressive. I try not to express myself. I mean, we didn't even have a show logo for a long time because I was being very careful not to express too much. I didn't want to. I don't want this place to be about me. I'm happy to describe. If it helps you, I'm happy to go into some of that. But this is about the callers, and so I go out of my way to make this a calm, open place where anyone in any part of the world going through anything would feel safe calling in, because we want to hear this. We want to hear from people. We want to talk to people going through hard things. And so if I am a little, I'm just for the record, I'm completely open to talk to you about this to the extent that it's helpful for you. If it helps you open up more, for example, but this seems kind of case in point to me about what we're talking about with the. You mentioned the cashier thing, or, somebody glances at you the wrong way, or the person in the store comes up to you every 15 minutes asking if you need help yet, and you don't know how to respond because it just feels fake, it feels disingenuous. I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but I don't know. Is that what you're getting at? Like, it feels disingenuous? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I'm confused as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure we're on a great tangent here. I mean, I'm happy to talk about how we run this show if it's helpful for the conversation, but I'm not.
I mean, I
this isn't
understand
about
that part.
This is even hardly a show. Like, it's not. There's nothing to show. We just take. It's not about me. It's not. It's literally. It's about you right now. If you wanna talk about that, I'm happy to. But I'd rather talk about more of what it's like to struggle connecting with people. And if using me as an example is helpful, let's do it. But I want to just be very clear that this is not about me.
I know. My whole point was like how I could see anybody and I would never be able to like pinpoint how they're doing or if I should step up.
I see. I see what you're saying now. Okay.
That was the point. It's okay.
I see.
Big confusion, but it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Well, that's what you're calling. You're calling in, trying to understand how other people think. And you're struggling to connect with people. And there's nothing off limits here. You can ask me anything you want. Ask me, as long as it's on the topic of your personal experience and trying to improve your experience. I'm happy to. I'll be as transparent as you want. As I just showed you. I'm not. This is about making people feel comfortable. So if there is at any point anything that I say or do or that you want to talk about, don't. Again, like you mentioned, you called in a little nervous, not exactly sure how to open up. So whatever I can do to put you at ease, that's what this is for.
I appreciate that. I've came down from that like anxiety about building up courage to call, since we got further into the conversation, and I'm more than comfortable and happy to be here to talk to you. And back on point. We've gone off rails. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay.
Um,
I imagine this is what it feels like in your head. Like you again, like I bring up I bring it up not to say it's weird or anything, or there's anything wrong with it, but because I relate to it. Like I too have a problem. If I was in Target today, and same thing happened to me. You know, people, the employee, they're so good they're so helpful at Target. They like want to know if you need help finding anything, because for them, it's like if they can make the sale, help you find something you can't find. It's a sale for them. Like they're incentivized to come ask you if you need help finding what you're trying to buy. You know, and I know that when they come up and ask, so that bothers me too. When you said that, I was like, yep, I totally get that. Like they don't really like care about me. They just like they want to, you know, they're trying to get me to buy something.
It's more business than like. Yeah.
Or their supervisors telling them that they have to check in on meandering people, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I
you know,
get that.
just because I'm walking around. Go ahead.
I just said, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, like if I'm walking around in the store, not sure what to buy, I don't want you egging me on. Like, oh, you need help with anything? Like, I'm doing my thing. I'm not like gonna do anything stupid. Like. But then I worry, like, am I walking in a certain way? Is it because I'm wearing a hoodie?
Right.
Like, do they think I'm going to, like, rob the place? Like, come on. I shouldn't have to worry about stuff like that, but I do.
Right.
And it sucks.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
I think everyone else...
People...
I think everyone else is walking... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm sorry. There is a slight lag here through this line, because it's technical, but there is a slight lag, so I'm stepping on you. Please go ahead.
Like, if I'm walking around the store and someone comes up, like, I would love to feel more like, hey, you know, I know you're working here, but mind your business a little. Like, I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
But then I worry if it's, like, a way that I'm walking or that I'm wearing a hoodie or if I'm doing something wrong. Then I worry, like, if they're having these employees come and check on me as if I'm going to do something, or they think I'm going to do something.
They probably would.
In, like, my appearance.
They might be. They might very well be. I've had that happen to me, too. Not that... if it helps you at all to know that that's happened to somebody else, like, I guarantee... Chat, if you can tell us how many of you have been in an airport or a grocery store or a mall and not doing anything suspicious, and security approaches you because you just look suspicious. Has anybody else had that experience? I certainly have. For me, it happens at airports because I don't know what to do at airports waiting on my flight. I can't sit in the chairs. I have to pace. And so I know there's like some security guards looking at like at a switchboard, and they're see, look at the chat. They're all actually, don't look at the chat too closely. If you want to go look now just for the point, you can, but I'd rather keep this about the conversation long term. But the point is that, like, yeah, that's very normal, and it doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. Like, I think that can be really hard for people. Like, how am I walking? What am I wearing? What did I do that is drawing this attention to me? You're just different, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're respectful, polite, obeying the rules, and as long as nobody's like strip searching you or something, like as long as they're not hurting you or violating your privacy. You know, I would say that, you know, these things will get easier with time. Like, you're a teenager. You're trying to learn to take in a world that is set up by largely neurotypical people. A lot of these processes for monitoring people and keeping people safe are set up by people that are not like you. So naturally, it's only natural that you're going to have a hard time fitting into that. Because, you know, it wasn't set up by people like you. This is why I love Temple Grandin. I don't know if do you know the work of Temple Grandin?
Not off the top of my head, but actually, on that same, I've followed a lot of Alan Watts, if you know who that is. Like,
I love Alan Watts.
I'm a huge fan of, like, his philosophy and stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
Like, I love a lot of the stuff that he did. But what was his name? I will definitely look into him.
Temple Grandin. It's actually she, her. She is autistic. She has
Oh,
at least 2 PhDs. She might have 3.
wow.
She's on Time magazine's list of top 100 most influential people of all time. She single-handedly revolutionized the factory farming industry in the 70s, 80s. It was like, it was roughly 40, 50 years ago, something like that. There's an
Wow.
HBO movie about her life. She now runs a massive company in Colorado, and she's an engineer, and she changed the factory farming industry to be way more humane than it was before. It's unbelievable. She's an anomaly. She's unbelievable.
That's incredible.
You might get some inspiration from her work being on the spectrum. There's an amazing book, I'm going to put it into the chat for you, called Thinking in Pictures that she wrote. Goodreads. I'm going to put the Goodreads link for you in the chat. I think you're going to love this book because it is it's written by somebody who's very accomplished and has a lot of credentials, very successful, and she's on the spectrum.
Wow.
And her book, Thinking in Pictures, is about her life with autism, and also it goes through the different thinking styles people have. She's done all this work to understand, like, some people think in pictures, some people think through language, some people can't see pictures in their head at all, some people think in terms of math, some people think in terms of patterns, and none of these people have the same thinking style at all. And these people cannot understand each other. This is the premise of of this book I'm sending you. It's an amazing read. Very enlightening. I'm putting it in the chat for you now. Might be some typos. And then I'm also going to put the actually, I wonder if I can link an HBO movie. There's an HBO feature film about her life where Claire Danes plays her. I don't know if you know Claire Danes, amazing actress. This movie is amazing. I don't think I can link it because it's behind a paywall on HBO. But if you have HBO, go watch it tomorrow. Unbelievable movie. What's the Rotten Tomatoes on this movie? I've always wondered. It's one of my favorites of all time. Has I'm gonna tell you, just for shits and giggles, the Rotten Tomatoes is 100%.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah, so
that is awesome.
please go watch this movie. I don't know if you have HBO.
I definitely will.
You can buy it on Apple TV, even, or you stream it anywhere, I'm sure. But if you have HBO, it's free. I feel like Temple Grandin's going to be a huge inspiration for you. Just like, she has so much work you can look at. She was also on my podcast. I don't know if that's interesting to you, but she was on my podcast a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. I love listening to podcasts.
Okay.
I really do.
I unfortunately don't remember which episode she was on. But if you just search Julian Smith Spellbound Temple Grandin, you'll find it. She was only on once. But she, there's like, there's so much stuff she's put out there. My podcast episode is by far like not the best thing to listen. Like, there's other things she's done but if you want to hear a conversation between me and her, it does exist. She's been a huge inspiration to me. And I feel like you're going to get a lot from her. She's done a lot of work because her whole story is like, she grew up before a lot of this DSM criteria existed. Like, she's how old is she now? She's like in her 60s, I want to say. How old is Temple Grandin? She is 74 years old. So she is,
wow.
When she was growing up, like, the whole first act of the movie HBO made about her is about her inability to fit in, and people just thinking she's weird, and she had all these problems in her community, and she just channeled all of that into this hyper productivity and changed the whole damn world single-handedly.
That's amazing.
So I feel like you're gonna love her. I hear you being really hard on yourself. You called in and you were like really nervous at first to even open up, and I think that's perfectly normal. I think you're really young and you're trying to figure this stuff out. But I've spent most of our conversation just trying to hear what that experience is like for you and reassure you that these things are, they're not average, but they're not they don't have to hold you back. These can be like superpowers for you. And Temple Grandin is a case in point. And there's so many other examples, but she's one of my favorites. And apparently one of Time Magazine's favorites, up there with Steve Jobs. So, I just want to encourage you that I sense there's so much hope for you, and you are learning to, you're not even a legal adult yet. These things are going to take time to, for you to iron out in your head and to get comfortable with, now, like for me, for example, like again, I'm not trying to, in sharing my experiences, I'm not trying to, I don't know. I like to say, I don't know what's wrong with me because I've never had any tests, but,
I don't think there's anything wrong with you.
But to my own point, of course,
wrong with you sharing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I relate with what you're saying. Like you were saying in a grocery store, it bothers you when too many people come up to you asking for help, and like I relate with that. Somebody shoots you a weird look, you pick up on that more than other people. I relate to that. And I'm just for whatever it's worth, I want to say that these things do get easier with time, and you're gonna learn to, if you can dig in and just learn to kind of. I feel like it's going to give you an advantage in life if you can learn to grapple with these things at a younger age than I did, because it took me a long time to figure this stuff out. But, with you being 17, if you could learn to, curb some of these, or control some of these mental spirals you get into earlier on, you're going to be a lot better off than I was. Because now to this day, like if at Target today, like, when people came up to me, like, I have no problem now just being like, yeah, thanks for asking. I'm fine. Just browsing. Like I used to clam up, like you were saying, you clam up, you don't even respond half the time. And it's like awkward and they walk away. Like, I think you're going to land in a place where you're comfortable being like, yeah, I'm just browsing. Thanks for asking, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful, but I feel for you.
And it is.
Trying to share some experiences. And there's a bunch of people in the chat sharing experiences that would be worth you revisiting too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to come back and read through it, because not only do I appreciate the nice things that people may be saying towards me, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking I don't deserve it, but you told me how this is a nice, calming, comforting place, and I appreciate that. And, much love to you and every person here. You doing this is an amazing thing. I don't think anyone else really does this, especially growing up on you. It really means a lot in my heart that you're willing to do this for people. And I'm proud of you for that. And I'm proud of everyone else if they're speaking up about things. And I wish everyone here the best of luck, the same way that you guys wish it towards me.
I think that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly what we do this live stream for. I'm glad you've used it in the way you have. I love, there's few things I love more than spending, 25 minutes talking to someone, and then discover that they're a teenager and be like blown away by that. You're a very collected person. You're very well spoken. You think really quickly, I can tell. You're very witty, I can tell. You're very sensitive, I can tell. And you're very perceptive. And I think that's going to serve you well in life. And you're learning to control that. I think of like Harry Potter or, Frodo Baggins, learning to wield this responsibility or this unique experience. I guess that's what I would leave you with, that you just keep plowing forward, knowing that there's nothing wrong with you. And it's going to take you time to find the right friends. And if you sense that someone doesn't like you unmasked, or that they don't, or that they judge you, you don't have to write them off. You don't have to say, screw you. You can just see those people less, share less with those people. And, with time, you'll find who your close friends are that you really do connect with, and those will become increasingly meaningful people to you. That's my sense.
Yeah. And this is like my first like full on serious conversation outside of family and relationship and outside of quote unquote friends around me, this is the farthest into a serious conversation where I'm not constantly hearing how, oh, I understand, oh, I understand. When you hear it at that much of a rate from people, it just feels like filler words versus speaking here. You know, I feel like I'm being listened to. I feel like I'm being like enjoyed, that I'm here speaking with you and giving you this time. And that's made me feel really comfortable. And I really appreciate that, because that's a beautiful thing, especially since you do it for a couple, you know, maybe 5 to 7 people on an average night. But if you've already done 20 of these, that adds up to under or possibly over 100, what'll be soon hundreds of people that you've been able to personally speak with. And that's an amazing thing. And I could definitely call in again at some point in the future if I ever need to speak on anything. But I really am appreciating my time here, because this has helped me clear out some of the shit I've been trying to keep away from people, because I don't want to be like yada yada and like blow it off on people and come off rude, versus being able to sit down and have someone understand. Then that's the amazing part of it.
Right. Man, what you just said means so much to me. You know, I don't think I've ever heard anybody voice what you just said on this show about, you know, you said that you didn't hear me say much, that I understand, and that for you, when you hear understand, you hear that people respond with, I understand, that feels like just filler or just a way to get to the next beat in the conversation. And that is something that I really, that's a sequence of words I am very careful with in any setting, because when you tell someone you understand, you're telling them, you're making it about, you know, you're interjecting your own experience. So I do try to be very careful. You know, there is a time to say you understand something. There's a time where that actually can comfort people in my experience. But I too struggle with that when I hear people, when I'm sharing something to a friend or something and they say, I understand, that rubs me the wrong way too. So what you just said means so much to me, that you noticed that and that you felt safe sharing things here that you've never felt safe sharing before. That is exactly why we do this. And I'm so glad that you called in. We could talk. I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like you and I would have great conversations, not on a live stream. So, you know, I want to encourage you that there's nothing wrong with you. You have a unique brain. It's not like mine. I don't understand your brain. I will never pretend to try to understand your brain, but I'm happy to be a sounding board and share some experiences. And I hope the experiences of the people in the chat are helpful for you to revisit. And I'm just excited to see what you do with your life. I would love to get an update from you a couple weeks from now, a month from now, saying like, I'm doing much better. I've curbed some of these feelings. And then I'd love to hear an update long-term being like, yo guys, I'm the new Elon Musk. You know, I'd be like, hell yeah, that's awesome. You know?
I wish. Yeah.
So, you know,
I'm in the...
go get them.
Yeah. I'm in the Discord
Great.
now. So, and I don't want to like full on like try and friend request you and chat with you outside of it. And I don't want to like solicit you or put that on you. But of course, I would love to speak in on if I'm doing better or call in if I need reassurance. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me and to say that. Like, that's made my week. That's made it a lot better than it was.
Well, I'm not just fluffing you up, and I must be honest. If you're already in the Discord, I'm sure you've noticed I'm not in there too much. You know, I'm just so this project. I'm so spread thin with it already, but I am glad the Discord exists. By the way, I haven't plugged the Discord in a long time. I'm realizing there is a Discord server we have. It's a great community. It's expanding every week. I'm glad you, the caller, I'm glad to hear you're in there. It's a great place to get community. It's hard for me to keep up on. I get a lot of messages there. I want to also take this moment to publicly acknowledge I know there are at least dozens of you who have messaged me that I've not responded to. I try to respond to at least a couple of those a week. I'm really sorry. I will probably never be able to keep up on all the messages. But to you, the caller, I would say, don't ever hesitate to message me or whatever in the Discord. And I do respond to some of those as often as I can. I try to get through as many of them as I can. I am able to at least read what feels like most of them at least. And then I'm able to respond to a percentage of them. I couldn't tell you what percentage, again, because I just my time is so limited with this project. But do feel free to call in again anytime. This is a great place to chat. If there's something you're going through that you want to unpack again, don't hesitate to call in again anytime.
Of course. Well, thank you for having me. It was amazing to speak with you about a lot of this.
Well, thanks for calling in and sharing. I would thank you. I think this, I'm here doing this. I'd be here doing this, whether it was for whoever calls in, So I'm glad that it was you. I'm glad that we could have this conversation. I would love to hear from you again. Like I said, don't hesitate to reach out again anytime. And take care of yourself. Good luck.
Of course. Thank you. And I will definitely be calling in again. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Good night.
Good night.
All right, guys. Going to open up these lines again. Probably have time for one more caller before our intermission. I will say, if we do get into another long call, I will take a break in around 25 minutes just to clear my head. It helps me when I do that in the middle of these episodes. So to whoever calls in next, if we end up having a really long conversation, I will step away in around 25 minutes. I'll put you on a brief hold if we're still going, and that wouldn't be a first here. Yeah, Holly Grace says these calls are steadily getting longer. They sure are. It's great. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, so nice to be on, I guess.
Nice to be
I
chatting.
kind of noticed I've been subscribed for a long time. I won't really talk about a whole lot. I just happened to notice you started these anonymous live streams. I've been seeing them. I've tuned into a couple, and I think it's really awesome.
Great. What's on your mind tonight? Is there something you want to talk about?
Kind of, yeah. It's not something super serious. Like I have like a proper therapist and everything, but it's like, okay, so I'll just get into it. About a year ago, my husband, I guess, of about 5 years, left me, and it was a good thing. It was because he was pretty emotionally abusive and pretty controlling. I'm just pretty. I guess I'm dealing with a lot of of the aftermath still, even over a year later. And it's just like picking myself up afterwards that's difficult. A lot of the things that happen in the relationship are like still affecting me, like still bothering me, which I like it's the first relationship I've ever had that was that long. But yeah, it's just kind of wild.
Sounds like you were abandoned. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, I guess I feel that way. I mean, it was good that he left me for sure, because he was really abusive, and leaving me was the right thing to do. really, like looking at our relationship. Like he was really emotionally abusive and really controlling. I I I didn't realize how little control I had over my life until he was gone.
Right.
Um, like I couldn't even sleep when I wanted to, you know? Like I couldn't pet my dogs when I wanted to. Like that's how crazy, but like that was just normal. After 5 years that becomes normal. um which before you're in that situation, like you think, "Oh, I could never do that." Like I've never let that happen to me. I would never live like that, but because that's what I thought, right?
Right.
And I mean, um we were both kind of young. He was a couple years older than me, not that much. But I was only like 19 when we moved in together. So I think that my age definitely kind of played a role in that. I really honestly didn't have a self identity until I was away from him, which is probably it's kind of what abusers do. You know, they kind of isolate you. They keep you alone. They want a relationship to be your identity, and it was like my life just revolved around him, and more and more every single day. um I'm like I said, I'm out of it now. um he ended up like it ended up escalating to being like a physically abusive relationship. He only actually like hit me a couple of times, right? But I mean, once is enough to change everything, right?
Right. Sounds
Yeah.
like you were the frog in the slowly increasing hot water in the pan. You started out by saying you thought you would never get yourself into a situation like that, and then you found yourself in one. And then it sounds like your husband started out with subtle abuse tactics like controlling your friend circle and emotionally abusing you, manipulating you, and then it escalated to physical abuse. Um, so that's what I'm hearing is that
Yeah.
you were the frog in the pot of hot water that just gets hotter and hotter so that you don't notice till it's too hot.
Yeah, basically. um which yeah, that's it exactly. Like it started out with small things, I think. Like a monopoly on like what we would watch, and like when I would go to bed, I'm I'm I play video games. So I stay up late, right? But that was a big problem in our relationship, right? Another thing, which I honestly still really bothers me, to the point where it's like it still bothers me today, is like I'm kind of a messy person, right? I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But my my ex was like a huge neat freak, so it was always. I realized eventually into our relationship that it wasn't that I did things to set him off. It was that he just was looking for things in order to have a confrontation with me, right? Um, and often it was the state of the house, or something I hadn't cleaned up, or the dishes, because that was like one of my chores, right? And it just like it's such a small. It feels small, but it was like a huge thing for some reason. Like it was so demoralizing. Like if I even at the end of the day, if there was even like a few plates and a cup left, that was enough to just set him off, like just to tear into me, right? And now it's like I can't, like I have my own place. I've had it my own place for like over a year now, and I can't even look at the dishes without feeling like overwhelmed, without hearing him telling me all those things, right?
I see.
like it's just crazy how all that stuff. I guess 5 years is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But like that stuff, I don't know. It's yeah.
So this voice, the voice of your ex-partner in your head, your ex-husband in your head, has exacerbated your your loathing of doing the dishes. Sounds like.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think that's
yeah. Like
understandable.
I had a yeah.
Not that I know what that's like,
Sorry,
but I don't think you're
interrupting you.
weird. You know, I think that if you're in an abusive relationship and you're that frog in the pan of water, and you find yourself in a situation that you didn't sign up for or didn't see coming, and then it ends, and then they leave, maybe that's going to take time. I wouldn't know, but I'm wondering about if you can remind me how long ago your partner left, and I'm also curious how old you are.
So, he about a year ago, like March 2021-ish.
Okay.
And I'm 25 now. I was 24 at the time that he left me, and when we got together, I was 19. So like,
Right.
it was a pretty long relationship, in the grand scheme of things. Well, not in the grand scheme of things, but in the grand scheme of my life thus far, I suppose. It's the longest significant relationship I've had. And unfortunately, I spent a lot of my formative adult years in it, which has its upsides and downsides. I feel now that I have a really strong sense of self-identity. Right? I look back at not only the things that I do now, but also the things that I really wanted to and wasn't able to. You know, and I look at those things, and it's sad that I wasn't able to do those things while I was in the relationship, but being able to do them now, and just being able to be myself and see myself be myself, has been like really empowering.
Good. Sounds like you like your therapist
Yeah.
too. It sounds like your therapist has been helpful.
Oh yeah, for sure. She's great.
Great. What is your therapist? Has your therapist been able to shed any light on what you were dealing with your ex-husband?
Yeah. Well, I talked to her a lot about, there were like sometimes I wouldn't going to see her on it, as like how much of a red flag it is. My ex-husband, he didn't like it when I went to therapy. He didn't want me to talk to my therapist about him. But she's been really, really helpful ever since the relationship ended, especially because I don't feel any kind of reason not to open up to her about it anymore.
What does she
She's
say
just
about him?
been really, basically, well, we've been kind of more focused on me, because one of the things that she said to me that I didn't realize until she said it to me was like, you're really hard on yourself, even though he's not here to do that. He's not here to punish you anymore. You're still going through the process of feeling the emotional punishment that he would inflict on me, even though he's no longer part of my life.
Right.
Right? And that, I didn't realize I was doing that. Until she pointed it out to me. I was like, you know what, you're right. I'm really hard on myself when I don't get the dishes done, or when there's something around the house I haven't taken care of in a little too long, But like around him, like not keeping up on chores was like the end of the fucking world.
Mm-hmm.
So so she says it makes sense, like it's natural to be anxious about that kind of stuff, but I also have to recognize that I don't have to be anymore, right? I guess the thing that we've been working on the most is like recognizing when I'm reacting to the past, even though there's no longer any danger, right? I am in another relationship with someone who's like completely different. Like, thank goodness, he's honestly, he's amazing. He's very, very kind, very supportive, and he's very, very emotionally intelligent and really, really perceptive. But
I'm sorry, this is a new
sometimes
boyfriend? I missed that. I'm sorry.
a different, someone who I'm with now.
Good.
And I'm only bringing him up because some of the things that he does in my current relationship have triggered me, like not intentionally or anything. He's like wonderful, he's understanding, and when I tell him that something he's done has triggered me, he's very open to talking about it and finding solutions to that in the future.
Good.
Right? But it's like small things, like one time we went grocery shopping, and when we came back out, I had left my side of the car, like the door, just slightly ajar, like the door was open the whole time we were in the grocery store, right?
Mm-hmm.
I almost just started crying because I knew that if I was with my ex, that would have just been enough to just, like, I don't know. I just knew that would have been enough to really, really set him off. But of course, it wasn't a big deal. Like, it wasn't.
Right.
My at the time boyfriend, he was like, "Oh no, the car!" And that was it, and we drove away. But like, I was like sitting there, like tears building up in my eyes, and I'm like, "Hey, you know what? I'm not okay right now," and I don't know why. And of course, after talking it through with him, I realized that the reason why I reacted so hard to my own mistakes is because of how I assumed my ex would react, right? And I guess that's mostly what it's like. It feels like I'm living with him still in my head somehow, right? Because like my whole life became like revolved around how to not set him off, right?
Right.
How to, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. How to make it, because he was gonna blow up. There's nothing I could do about that.
Walking on
But just, like,
eggshells, maybe?
Yeah, like how to make it as easy on myself as possible, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Managing him with the words you choose and when you choose to speak up and whatnot.
Yeah.
Almost feels like maybe you're babysitting someone.
Basically. Honestly.
Right.
Fuck. I swear to God, like half of my life was just trying to anticipate how he would react to things, because God knows he wouldn't fucking take care of himself that way. Like, he made that my responsibility. He didn't have to control his actions. Well, in his mind, he didn't have to control his actions as long as I was focused on managing how he would eventually react, right?
Right.
And I guess it's like that's what's really been getting to me now that he's not part of my life anymore. Like, he's not. We met at work, so.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's hard.
We're both in the military.
You still work
right?
together?
So. No. Oh God, no.
That's good. Close
yeah,
call.
Yeah. Well, like, we have to. Yeah, no kidding. Well, in the Army, you have to sort of like tell your superiors when you're with someone else in the unit, just to make sure that your command structures don't touch at all.
Right.
We had done that. So he I notified my chain of command when our relationship ended, and I just made the request, like, I don't want to have to work with him ever again. That's all I said to them. I didn't tell them anything else, because in our unit, like he'd threatened, God, Jesus. The more I talk about things in the past, the more I realize, like, just how many fucked up things he did. I haven't thought about this in a while. He threatened to charge me with insubordination because he saw me talking with a private in our unit, and he thought that I was talking about him, right? And he didn't like that idea. So he threatened to have me charged with insubordination, even though I wasn't talking about him at all.
Right.
But it was like that type of thing I had to worry about all the time. Or I didn't know I had to worry about it until he threatened to charge me with something like that. For the record, he couldn't have done that.
Okay.
Like, that would have been a huge abuse of power.
Right. That makes sense.
But after the relationship, like, I was worried about things like that. So, but eventually, just even seeing him in the same building, like, we didn't work together anymore at all. There's nothing I needed to talk to him for. But even just seeing him around the building and working in the same building as him, seeing him being friendly with all our coworkers, and just, it was so psychologically, like, damaging, just seeing all these people that I'm friends with be friendly with, like, someone who's been violent to me, you know, was really difficult. So eventually, like, I just didn't feel safe, right? Like, like I said, he was only violent to me on a couple of occasions, but, like, I felt like if I felt like, and I still feel like, if I ever did anything that would be damaging to his reputation, that he would try to find a way to get back at me somehow. I don't know how, but I just have a feeling he would try to hurt me somehow if that happened, right? So I was worried that if I said anything to the unit, that he would somehow, like, I don't know. I honestly have no idea, but that he would try to hurt me somehow. So another thing. So when I started dating my current partner, that fear just completely amplified, and going to work became nearly impossible. Like, I was just consciously, like, having an anxiety attack anytime I went to work, anytime I stayed over at my boyfriend's place and I would have him drive me to work the next day. I would be like, can you park, like, actually 2 blocks away, and I'll just walk the rest of the way. Like, it was just insane, right? And I'm like, I shouldn't have to fucking live like this.
Well,
so
you're gonna need time to get past that stuff. You know, reminds me of something I saw in the chat a second ago. This is from 5URUGGU. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. But they said to you, don't let him have this power over your life. Don't let him have that. And I think it's a beautiful sentiment. However, I recognize that it sounds like it's not going to be so simple for you. Like, you're not crazy for needing to walk a couple blocks to work and not wanting your boyfriend to just drop you off. I mean, it sounds like you needed some time to walk some pavement and burn some calories and think before you actually walked into that office. And that's not crazy. You were just doing, I would say, props to you for recognizing that would help you. Walk it off. That's great that you had that foresight. I think that's a great sign of, it shows you have good insight into what you need, and you're in tune with your body and your mind. And, you know, there are a few things that can catapult you into that faster than landing on your feet after an abusive relationship and just having to figure it out. It sounds like you've done a lot of work. I'm really glad to hear you've got a therapist that's helping you process these things. I'm so glad to hear you've got a supportive boyfriend now that's not abusing you and is open to making the relationship a two-way street that works for both of you guys. I imagine that after a 5-year relationship, with you being so young, having gone into it at such a young age, you know, it's gonna take longer than a year would be my guess, and I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, I wish it could be quicker for all of us when we get out of bad relationships, but I think that makes perfect sense that you're still dealing with it a year later. You know, I don't know. I don't think anybody can tell you how long that'll take, but it sounds like you got a lot of really good support around you, including your boyfriend and a therapist that you really like. And I sense from hearing you talk that you've just done so much healthy processing is what I would say. And you're aware that you're at least aware, very aware that your ex-husband's head is still in your head when you see the dishes. At least you know that's there and where it's coming from. I think that's great that you've pinpointed it. You know?
Yeah, that's step one, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, somebody in the 5URUGGU again says it took about 6 years for them to heal. And we don't know. We don't ever know. I think that's a really long time. I'm really sorry to hear that from you, 5. I'll call you 5. I don't know how to say your name. I apologize. I'll call you 5. Sorry to hear that, 5. I think, you know, that's exactly that's exactly my point. Is that some people, you hear some people get over it in a year and a half. You hear some people, it's like, you know, like 5 is saying 6. It took 6 years. You know. There's so many factors, you know, but I'm glad to hear that you're on a healthy road of recovery and that you've got a great new relationship that's supportive and creates space for you and respects you enough to talk to you and will listen to you if you want to walk the last couple of blocks to work. I mean, I could think of some exes I've had that would be like, what, you don't want to spend the extra 2 minutes with me? Like, what about me? You know, like, that's great that they dropped you off and let you walk a couple blocks, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's awesome. And it's not just him, also my parents, I was lucky enough to have them like live in the same city as me and be able to move back in with them immediately. So I'm in probably a better situation than most, which I'm really, really grateful for. Like my parents are so awesome. I thank the stars for them every day.
Great. That's beautiful.
But yeah, the relationship with my new boyfriend is like, it's like night and day. It really is good, 100%. The only reason why I hesitate is because like I just feel like there's a lot of baggage I'm carrying into this relationship that it doesn't feel fair to him sometimes, you know? And I mean, like that's something I also talked with my therapist. She had said, like, you know, it's not your fault that you need to heal from these things, so don't feel like you're burdening him or anything. If he wants this relationship, you know, that's why he's here, right? But it's like sometimes when he says I love you, I just like hold my breath because it's like I'm waiting for like the other shoe to drop, you know?
Right. I hear that.
Because like my ex would say things like, I love you, but you're lazy as hell, or I love you, but you're really stupid sometimes, or I love you, but you have really crazy ideas, or crazy this or that, or right. Like it was always undercut by something else, and I didn't realize that until my new relationship, when he just started saying I love you, just to say I love you, right? And I was like, okay, where's the but? Right? Like I was just always waiting for him to say something negative to me, right? Always. After every single time he said I love you. And it hit me then like how crazy. Like I'd become unaccustomed to just being told by my partner that I'm loved.
Right.
And it's like I understand that I don't need to wait for the other shoe to drop, but it also makes me angry. Like it's not fair to me. Like I didn't have to go through all that. Like I did, and there's nothing I can do to change that. But it's just, I get so mad that all that time spent on someone so bad, I guess.
Have you opened up? Have you had a really intimate conversation with your current boyfriend where you say the kinds of things you're telling your therapist about your fears for the relationship? Like, have you tried sitting your boyfriend down and saying, "Hey, look, I just want to acknowledge I've got a lot of baggage, and it wasn't my fault. I've accepted that, but I just want you to know that I'm still healing from that, and I just want you to know if I'm ever too much for you, or I am clearly, I clearly demonstrate that I'm still healing, and learning what a healthy relationship looks like, that I'm all ears." Have you ever had that kind of a conversation with your boyfriend?
Yeah, I have.
Good.
And he's also been in like an abusive relationship. Obviously the
Okay.
dynamics of his were quite different because he's a man, right? And that looks a lot different when you're being abused by, you know, by a woman. In his
Right.
case it was like he's a pretty big dude. He's a pretty big native dude. So like if anyone ever accused him of like hitting them, he obviously would. Unfortunately, where we live is like pretty biased. But because he's such a large dude, he's always been very conscientious of his like physically intimidating other people. It's something that he hates doing, right? So like with his ex, she was always very physically abusive to him, and he would just never ever defend himself, right? So that was something that he went through, and a lot more of that. But we've been really open with each other about all that, and it's led to some good discussions of like if I ever need to have some space from you, or if I don't want to hear about something from your past, right? Like it's not that I don't care, but you know, it's that I'm not in the right headspace for it, or it's something I can't discuss with you, and I encourage you to like seek a different support for discussing that particular aspect of your past or whatever. It's something that we've been able to talk about pretty openly.
That gives me a lot of hope.
It's again like it's like yeah, right. It's like night and day, honestly, with him.
I feel like you're on a fast track you don't realize you're on yet. It might feel hard because you spent so long in that relationship, like you said, at such formative years. But I hear a lot of hopeful stuff here. I feel like you're going to wake up one day and be like, oh, wow, I'm over that. You know, I don't know when that's going to be, but it sounds like it'll be sooner than later. I mean,
I hope so.
That's what I hear when I hear it in your voice. I hear that you're ready to move on. I hear that you've identified the things that are holding you back. I've heard that you've got an open communication style with a boyfriend who knows what it's like to be in an abusive relationship himself, and that you guys create space for each other, and it's a respectful relationship. And that is, I just feel like that's such a fast track that is worth celebrating. Good for you for doing that work and being so in touch with the situation. Congrats to you.
Yeah.
Celebrate
honestly,
that.
Yeah, I never really thought about it that way before. But you're right. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No need to be sorry.
It's true.
For what?
I feel like yeah. just I'm getting a little choked up.
Oh, well, I'm not trying to choke you up. I'm just saying, like, I said that because I sensed that maybe that's the next step for you towards, you mentioned you're still having trouble moving on. And when I hear your story, I'm like, wow, like you've done all this work. And so I said that because I was like, maybe you're having a hard time realizing what you've already accomplished. And maybe you would have an amazing day tomorrow if you woke up and looked yourself in the mirror and said, you know what, today I'm going to acknowledge every small thing that is better than it was this time last year. And I bet you there's a lot of things like that worth celebrating. That, and I'm not, to be very clear, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong here. I'm just saying, like, you're clearly, it's going to take you, you're clearly going to need some more time to keep working through this, of course. But, I sense that some next steps for you practically might be just celebrating the small things, Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I guess I just never thought of it as accomplishments like before, It's just always been like, oh shit, and this another thing that I have to deal with, right? Like, I guess I've been looking at all the things that I've had to deal with from the past relationship as something, as like an inherent flaw in me, I suppose, right? Like, oh, I can't believe I held on to this from the relationship, right? Even though it's not my fault. I have to keep telling myself that. It's hard to. I mean, it's a good mantra, right? It's like, it's not my fault that I was abused. It's not my fault any of the things that he pushed onto me, right? He used to blame me for his actions a lot. Like, it's your fault I had to do this or that. It's your fault that I said this or that to you. If you had just done the dishes, none of this would have happened. But even after like a year away from him, I guess I just keep finding small little pieces of things that I have been internalizing as my fault, like being hurt and having scars from all this abuse. I've been, until just hearing you kind of talk about, like, you've done all this work, I never thought of those things as accomplishments. I just thought them as me overcoming my own personal flaws.
They are accomplishments, 100%.
Yeah.
They are. Congratulations to you. In fact, I'm going to play you some applause. Can I play you some applause? I'm not even going to ask permission. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Way to go. Beautiful. Wake up tomorrow and celebrate some things. Any chance you get to celebrate something, even if it's just for 5 seconds. That's what I would say. You have come so far. And you got a little more ways to go. But who knows? Maybe next week you're like, wow, I really just wasn't celebrating some things.
Yeah,
who knows?
maybe.
I don't know. But I do feel like those are some practical next steps that would be good. I mean, I do hear you struggling to realize the work that's been done. That's why I said that. And that's why I forcibly applauded you.
Have some non-optional applause.
Props to you. Yeah, non-optional. There's no such thing as optional applause here. When it happens, it happens. It's the same as toast, really. It's the same as toast. Not optional. Well, I would love to hear a positive update from you. Are you on our Discord?
I am, yeah.
Okay,
I joined tonight after
great.
realizing there was
Welcome.
like a watch party and everything.
Welcome. Well, keep us posted on how it's going, and if you need to call again and process anything else with the chat and me, don't hesitate to call back anytime. We would love to pick the conversation back up anytime.
Right, for sure. Thank you so much for listening, and I had a great time.
I had a great time too. Thanks for calling. Good night. Take care.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, it's the time of the night where we do that thing where everybody leaves. I've been waiting to play that sound for so damn long. I love that one. It's never a good time for it, but it's in the soundboard. All right, we're coming right back. If you can hang on for 5 minutes, these little breaks just help me clear my head for the second half of the show. yeah, if you have the guts to stick around for 5 damn minutes, join us. We'll be right back. All right, chat. We are back. Oh, I forgot to do the intermission sign. I'm always forgetting something. Here, I'll flash it for a second. Oh, I'll take another 5 minutes. I'll be right back. That was a joke. We're actually just going to jump right back in. Did I fool anybody? Did that get a joke? Did that get a laugh? Okay. Lines are opening. Jumping right back in. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect you to answer.
Well, I did.
Hi.
What's on your mind?
I'm kind of, I don't know how to put it, like going through a crisis, I guess.
Okay, what's going on?
I'm like, so I live, it's kind of related to what the last caller was talking about. I live with my girlfriend currently, and as a male, I struggle to call it an abusive relationship, but it certainly feels that way a lot of the time. Not physically, but emotionally. Where, I mean, I like kind of teared up listening to the last caller where it was like, you can't, everything, like there's always a problem. Everything, I'm always on edge trying to diagnose what the problem is going to be. Like even now, currently, sorry if you hear like a lot of noise. I'm on the street, walking home from work.
No problem.
But even now, like I can't even tell her that I would be calling you, even if like she knew that it was about anything, because she would immediately get suspicious. But like she won't get angry. She'll just start crying. But then I feel immediately guilty. But anytime I'm like hanging out with friends or with anyone that I'm really close to, it like she gets very possessive. Like I just spent 2 days with family, and you would think I was about to go somewhere for 2 months. The way like she just immediately like responded negatively. Like it was just, oh, but like, won't you miss me? Don't you want to be with me? Are you going to talk about me?
Right.
What are you going to say? Oh, did your family talk about me? What do they say about me? Do they like me? Like, and it's incessant. And then it's always like every single day on my phone, she's going through some crisis and my life has to be put to the side. Meanwhile, like on paper, her life is significantly more stable than mine. Like she has a good savings, a good amount of money. She has a lot of friends that live near us and that she goes and hangs out with. She has a solid family that really supports her. And I'm coming from, I've supported myself since I was essentially 14 years old. And I'm like still not financially stable, of course. And yeah, I don't have a lot of friends because I'm just kind of a loner. And the friends that I do have, I can't even hang out with. And
you can't hang out with them because is it because she's controlling your social circle that you can't hang out with them?
Yeah, it's like if she's not there, then she is sorry. But if she's not there, then she immediately assumes I'm talking about her.
Right.
And then she's also incredibly distrusting of me. Like she always thinks I'm cheating, and I'm not. I've never cheated on her. But it's just the way, like every text that she sees on my phone, she has to see who it's from. Like one time I got off work and I told her I was getting off work, and then I didn't respond to her for like 20 minutes because literally an old lady passed out in front of me on the street and hit her head. And I was calling the ambulance and she was bleeding. And I tell her the story, and the first thing she says was, well, how long ago did the ambulance get there? And I'm like, don't you, like, okay, like, no, it came a couple minutes ago, but what, like, it's just immediate distrust. And, like, I have to show her the text on my phone, and, like, and I've just, and it's, sorry, I'm, like, rambling.
No, that's what this is for.
A lot is
That's what this is for. Chat's lighting up for you.
I'm glad. I'm only on my phone, so I'll be excited to read it. But
Kreezus says,
like, I
if I can highlight something, Kreezus says, actually, I hope this isn't too much too soon, but Kreezus says, I dated someone a lot like this. Fuck that.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that kind of has become my sentiment now. Like, where I'm like, fuck that. Like, I've become cold. I've become very unempathetic, and where, like, I like had a long talk with my mom about it, and whenever I told her how I was feeling, she's like, that's not you. She was like, my mom said when she was at her lowest point, like I was helping her whenever I was trying to raise kind of myself, because I realized she couldn't really raise me. She was going through a lot of problems.
Right.
And I was always there for her. And then like I made the connection there. It was like, oh, I'm kind of just attached to taking care of people. And like,
that's what it sounds like.
And I'm like, yeah, like I really enjoy just being able to be that person that is the rock. Like I enjoy being the calm in the storm. Like when COVID first hit, everyone was coming to me, and I'm like, all right, like it's like life's gonna get crazy, but we still, like, I'd be like, we're breathing, we're alive, we're all right. Like, and I was the person that a lot of people would come to when that was happening, just because I just give off that energy, I guess.
Well, you raise an interesting point, and it's raising a lot of questions for me that I'm going to have. This is going to be a fascinating conversation, I can already tell you. We might be talking for a long time here. I don't know how long you have.
Can't wait.
I'll
be talking as long as you need.
Sarugu from the chat says, these are red, with a bunch of D's, flags. And I was thinking the same thing. Totally with Sarugu from the chat on that. I'm sensing a lot of red flags here. Offcore, one of our mods, says, there need to be clear boundaries for both of you to have a healthy relationship. This is spot on. Jay, I completely agree with you. A relationship needs boundaries in order to be helpful or healthy, and this is counterintuitive to some people. In fact, I was on the phone with my grandma recently, and I won't say which one. I love all my grandmas, by the way. This is no disrespect to my grandma, but this is a funny aside I'll add. My grandma one of my grandmothers did not understand. They were questioning some of my boundaries with someone. Again, all these people will remain anonymous. The people themselves are irrelevant. Yeah. But my grandma could not understand, like, that I had these boundaries with specific people. And I was like, Grandma, calendars are boundaries, clothes are boundaries. I listed off all these things that are boundaries that she was like, what are you talking about? Like boundary, like I shouldn't have boundaries. She's like, I just don't understand boundaries. I was like, well, yeah, you do. Like boundaries are everywhere. Like boundaries are what constitutes a relationship. Like, that's why every relationship looks different. Every relationship has different boundaries. People are different. People have different things that are off limits. And it doesn't sound like there are a lot of boundaries in your relationship, is my point. And that is not a good sign. And I'm wondering, my first question is, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Okay. A good time to be hashing these things out. You know, you started by saying you had some reluctance to call this an abusive relationship since you're the male in the relationship. And I just want to tell you right out of the gate, this is a massive problem right now. It's getting a lot of attention, the fact that, let's be real. Testosterone is a bitch. And there in history have been predominantly men have abused women. And predominantly that's been physical abuse. And there for far too long, women were trapped in horrible relationships with men that could get away with treating them like shit. Often, women were beaten in relationships, and nobody would listen to them. There was no outlet for women in years past for relationships like this. They couldn't get the help they needed. And so we're now in this movement where women are finally being heard, like in like Me Too movements and the Me Too movement and things like this. And one of the byproducts of that movement, and I'm so happy that a lot of these people are, and I'll leave names out of it. I mean, everybody knows all the names that are caught up in the Me Too movement. There's no need to rehash those. But I'm so happy that this movement happened and that people who were in very high places, some of them are getting caught because it's drawing a lot of needed attention to the issue. However, you said when you first called in that you had some reluctance to say that you were being abused because you're the male. And I just want to acknowledge that there is still a place for men in abusive relationships because psychopaths are not exclusively male. We know this. And I'm not calling your girlfriend a psychopath. I don't know her, and we've only been talking for a few minutes. But my point is that, abusive people with abusive tendencies, people with no sense of healthy boundaries, aren't just men. It can look any number of ways. It doesn't matter who you are or what level of estrogen or testosterone you have. Men can be abused too. There's no shame in it, is what I want to tell you as a first basis for the conversation. There's no shame in that. There's no need to feel embarrassment or reluctance to confess that. I'm happy you're calling in with this. My heart breaks for you that you said you were calling while you were crying while you were listening to the last caller. And I just I want to make you feel really comfortable to open up here and say your piece, because it doesn't sound like you've had a good place to do that.
No, I really haven't. And it's just it's a very difficult thing to talk about. And it's a very difficult thing for me to want to put on someone else, because even my close friends, whenever I do get a chance to hang out with them, I don't want to be like, oh my God, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. I want to just enjoy my time with them. But then I leave and I'm like, man, I'm still in the same situation.
Right.
And one thing I feel like that it's going to kind of throw a wrench into this whole situation that I haven't mentioned is that she is diagnosed OCD and has an eating disorder, which also is which the eating disorder has developed over the course of our relationship. We didn't start with it. She mentioned to me that in the past that she had an eating disorder, but she had grown out of it. And she mentioned previously that her OCD used to be really bad, but she had grown out of it. And then what had ended up happening was we were really close, and I had mentioned, I'm like, I'm not really into, I really don't want to do something super serious whenever we were first seeing each other before the pandemic in October 2019. And because I had this gut feeling. Mm-hmm. And then, but then we got along so well. We got it was just it was kind of I was shocked how well we got along and how well we meshed. And then the pandemic happened, and then we, without disclosing where I am, we were the last two people from my school in the city that I'm in. And so we just ended up being it was the pandemic. There was no one else to talk to. So it's being with one person isn't that bad. So we just ended up being together for a month and a half, just not even intentionally living together, but just living together because it was great. And then we parted ways for a month. And then after a lot of talking and a lot of getting closer to one another over the next couple months and me visiting her, we decided to move in. And then we moved in together for a short lease just to try things out. Then we decided to move back to the city that we were in and get roommates and try to really make things work back during the pandemic or post the intensest part of the pandemic. And then things were okay at that point. They were starting to get rocky. And then eventually we moved into our own apartment. And I accredited things getting rocky to our roommate who did not like her at all and was causing a rift between us because I was very close with that roommate, and this roommate, they were not into her and thought she would like basically called her an attention whore, for lack of a better term. And then we moved in together, and then things just completely changed once we moved in together without like the second time completely alone. And then it all of a sudden became like her eating disorder started getting really bad again, and I'm like, oh well, I would like try to like encourage her and be like, remember like when we first met, like we did this and we did this, and then she was like, oh, I was just doing that so you would like me. And then I was realizing that along the line, like that was her reasoning for a lot of things, was like, oh, I did that because you would like me. And now whenever I have tried to set boundaries and say things like, hey, this isn't right, like, oh, hey, you need, like, I cannot be the sole helper of your OCD and your eating disorder. Like I can't take that on all of myself. I'm not trained. I don't have the accreditation for like dealing with this stuff. I think you need to seek professional help. And she immediately just gets angry at me and refuses, and then says, well, if our relationship depends on me getting help, then you might as well break up with me because I'm not going to get help, blah, blah, blah. Like, just, like, she's like, nobody knows me better than I know me. And I'm like...
Yikes. Yeah, these are red
flags,
like, my friend.
I'm seeing them, like, everywhere. And it's, like, every day now where I'm just, like, I can't... And I live with this person, and I'm just like walking in, and now, unfortunately, like whenever I see her get sad, the first thing that comes to mind is detention, and I hate that. Like I don't want to feel that way towards another human being whenever they treat me, they come to me with like sadness or needing something. I don't want to immediately be like, oh, you just want attention, don't you? But it's like, that's just what my brain is going to. It's like, you just want my attention. And then I just visited family. I mentioned I spent a couple days away, and it was like the end of the world to her. And I like saw that family, and I was honest with them for like the first time. I'm like, this relationship is coming, like I feel like it's ending very chaotically and explosively. And they're like, they all expressed to me, they're like, yeah, no, she, like, I could obviously tell that she was jealous of us. And I'm like, wait, so and then I started like running it through my head, and like, yeah, she doesn't like me spending time with my family. She doesn't like me. Whenever I told her I was starting to try to see a therapist, and I've been like on and off because money has been up and down. But whenever I go see a therapist, she gets so, like, immediately knows I'm, like, talking about her, which, admittedly, I am. But it's just, like, I can't, I'm suffocated. And that's why I'm calling you on my walk home from work while I told her I'm staying late, which, I mean, is suspicious, admittedly, but I didn't know what else to do.
So are you walking home to her right now?
I am.
I see.
I'm kind of winding down roads because I'm close to home, and so I'm just bouncing around.
That's got to be intense.
Yeah, it is. I feel like I've become used to it because I work in a bar that in a very rich part of town that is very high volume. So it's like I come off of this is like I'll be like, it'll be like really late, and I'll be very wired because I just had to deal with 100 people and deal with things, working a bar. And I'm just like coming home, and I kind of like, I just have this wind down where it's just like, all right, so what might she be upset about? Right. What can be her crisis today that I need to help her through?
Yeah, I want to stop you there if I can. Can I stop you there and poke around a little bit? Because there's so much
stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't want to get too far from something you said about 5 minutes ago. You told me that this relationship started in at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and I'm sensing a lot of fear in the relationship. Like, fear is the basis of it, and I'm not the only one that noticed it. A bunch of people have suggested that, including Easy Cheesy, one of our mods, said a while ago that they were picking up on there's a lot of fear, that the relationship was based on a lot of fear. I'm picking up on that too. And I also picked up on something you said even well before that. You said that with your friendships, you've become the kind of person, because of and you said you don't know why this is, but that people just tend to come to you to unload and talk, and that you're kind of this, you enjoy helping people with their problems and talking through their problems, and that people come to you and do that. And with all that combined, let's review those three elements. You're a person in chronological order. The chronological order is, you said, I tend to be the person that my friends come to me with problems with, and they just want to talk to me about their problems. You said, I don't know if it's because of my energy or what, but people just come to me, talk to me, they want to talk to me about their problems. And then the second thing you said was, you and this girl started living together because it was convenient. It sounded like it was convenient at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. It sounded like it sounded like your relationship started out as a COVID bubble, which sounded very convenient. Now, what was COVID? What did it do? It created, well, it did a number of things, but like most prominently, it created a lot of fear in the world. There was a lot of fear. Everybody was afraid. And so you were in you started living with this girl that was very convenient to live with for whatever reason, because it was a bubble or whatever it was. You mentioned you were the last two people, and it just like, it sounded like an Adam and Eve kind of story. Like, you guys just created this COVID bubble because it was convenient.
It kind of was. Like, we were the only two people that would interact with one another for months.
And so my question to you with these elements that we're revisiting is it possible that you have stayed in this relationship because of some sense of being like a white knight in her life or something? Like, you're going to help fix her, or you're not. I'm not saying that you think you're a savior, but that, like, you think that, is it possible you're with this girl because you feel some sense that if anyone is going to be able to tolerate her and help her grow past where she is now, it's going to be you? Is there any element of your relationship that feels like that?
I think so, to a degree. Especially at the beginning and mid. What I think it has become now is more so, I don't know how she is going to survive me ending the relationship.
Right.
Like, with her current problems, I'm like every time, because at this point, honestly, I've come to the conclusion that it's going to happen where I'm going to end it, just because I'm like, I've grown like so much. I've tried so much. I like have come to really the end of my rope where I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. I've suggested help. I've tried to talk with her. We've been together for so long. And now it's just like, I'm like, whenever I do end this relationship, and after talking with a therapist mentioned how, like, people with OCD develop obsessive compulsions to their partners as well, especially if they're not in therapy whenever they're in a relationship. And now, and like, it's so obvious that, like, it is a compulsion, and I'm not, like, I genuinely don't think that it's malicious in nature. Like, my heart says this is her compulsion acting out, and she has just attached herself to me so hard that she can't see herself. Like, I'm just, like, I have to be there, and I have to be her version that she needs me to be. And now I'm like, whenever I'm gone, she still has like good friendships and good relationships with her parents, but I've realized she hasn't been honest with any of them.
Right.
She's not honest about her like mental health. And so I'm like, I don't know I don't know what the course of action would be. Our lease has 3 more months, and I'm living with her, and I'm like, just at the end, like.
Right. Claire from the chat
like,
says,
I just don't,
sorry, go ahead. I'm still listening.
No, I don't want to hurt someone.
Okay.
Really, like
I do want to chime in
I
here.
don't.
I do want to
You
chime in
know?
here because I hear you being really hard on yourself. I do want to chime in here. Claire from the chat says something I completely agree with. She says, I'm assuming Claire is a she. I'm assuming because you have no picture and your name's Claire. I'm sorry if you're a he or something else. Claire, they say to you, if you think breaking up puts her in danger, that is an abusive dynamic and shows you need to end it. I agree with that.
Fuck.
I agree with that 150,000%.
Yeah.
Now, here's another thing I want to say on the top of that. If you're only staying with her because you're afraid of what's going to happen to her, you have to find a way to come to terms that she'll be okay. She's clearly a girl that can figure her shit out. She's clearly a girl that can figure shit out. She's clearly, you told us that she's, that your roommate that you trust more than your girlfriend told you that he didn't like her because he thought she was an attention whore. I'm not calling your girlfriend an attention whore. I don't know her. I'm just telling you what you told me, the words of someone you really trusted. And if she is that kind of person, she's not going to die. She's going to figure something out. She'll figure it out. You break up with her tonight. She'll figure it. She'll have somewhere to sleep in 5 minutes. That's just like some experience talking. I'm not saying you need to go home and break up with her right now. I'm making a point that your girlfriend sounds like she's very resourceful. She's going to be okay. And I think the best thing you can do for yourself is to finally listen to that nagging voice that's been in your head and stand up for yourself. You don't have to be mean. Don't be mean. Actually, please don't be mean. Not only do you not have to be mean, please don't be mean. You can respectfully break up with her. You don't have to vengefully break up with her. My point is that do not stay with this girl out of guilt or some sense that you are responsible for her. She's not a dependent of yours. She's not a, like you're not even married. I'm not diminishing the situation. It's hard emotionally. I get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I'm just saying, you have got to find a way in your head, and I don't know what it is because I don't know you, but you've got to find a way to come to terms with breaking. If you feel this is not going anywhere, and if everything you're telling me is true, everybody in the chat and I are telling you these are red flags. This does not sound good.
Yeah.
And you have got to find a way to stand up for yourself and let go of any sense of guilt. You can still do it respectfully. Please do it respectfully. You don't want to crush this person, but it does sound like you've been really patient and silent about your feelings. And my sense is that she needs to hear you finally be like, you know what? This isn't working, and it's not gonna work. And I can't do this anymore, or something to that effect.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I know that. Like, I feel like I've come to this conclusion. It's just like the act of doing it, which is just so. Just like, I guess I have an issue with like living through moments before they happen.
Right.
And then just feeling the emotions of that moment where that hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
And like, there's been moments where like I haven't slept all night because I just like I envisioned once, so like what would the circumstances be when I broke up with her, and then it just like I couldn't stop. And I couldn't stop feeling. I mean, guilt is a very common theme in my life. Having like kind of supported myself, and I have a very complicated family life, and it was by choice that I left the support of my family.
I see.
Not that they're like, I grew up very poor, but I told them like I can't deal with you and them because there was so much drama, and I had to keep them at an arm's length. But because of that, I've like watched my family kind of degrade while I have done decently well for myself. I just graduated college at a very good school, and so I was like I see things that I have done, and then I see things that are going wrong for them, and I just kind of constantly feel guilty. And
Wow. So you're
like that.
You
Why
estranged,
me?
you estranged from your family, your parents?
Not estranged. I chat with them, and I actually just saw my dad for the first time in like 2 years. Like today, actually, he just dropped me off for work. But no, it's very, very, very complicated. Essentially, my dad was not a good father nor husband. And then that caused my mom to have like a mental break. Then that made her not a good mother or wife. But they wouldn't leave each other. And then I eventually ended up helping my mom while my dad left. And then eventually I just said, I'm done with both of these. And because I kind of realized at a certain point that my mom wasn't entirely the victim, and then I started listening to my dad's side of the story, and then it just became a real mess. And then my sister, I want to give. Do you mind if I struggle saying this, but
no names or anything.
I just want to give like a content. Yeah, no names.
Okay.
I just want to give a content warning for like sexual assault. My sister claimed a false molestation accusation against my father because of what he did. And then my mom fought my dad really hard on that, even though there was zero evidence. And then CPS came, and there was that was the catalyst of me saying, screw you, I'm done with this whole thing. Eventually it came out that it was a lie. And then we are finding out in the years passing that my sister is a pathological liar. Like it's kind of allegedly, according to my other relatives, there's a bad gene somewhere in my family pool that infects people, and one person a generation, and they say my sister got it, where it's a common theme in her life to get relationships with men and then develop an egregious lie, and it's a mess. I'm sorry. That was a tangent and a half. I'm sorry.
No, I opened that can of worms. You're not on a tangent. I asked you that because you mentioned your family life was complicated. You mentioned you're in this really complicated relationship with this girl, and I'm wondering, it is more common than not that we are sucked into relationships that are familiar to us. And it seems like you've found yourself in some sort of codependent relationship. It seems like you are in a mess, as you put it, towards your parents. And fortunately, you're young. You're not married to this person. You have no financial commitment to this person. Sounds like you live together. That's pretty easy to figure out. But sounds like that's why I asked about your parents. And from what I'm hearing, it's all making sense. It's all adding up. Like you may have been, you may have some kind of familiarity in relationships you're attracted to, even though subconsciously it's not healthy. You told all of us that you have enforced some really specific boundaries with your parents because of the dysfunction you sensed there. And my guess is that in this next chapter of your life, in your 20s, and it makes perfect sense, like a lot of people do this. It's not just specific to you, so it's nothing to be ashamed of. Is my point. That a lot of people get out of their parents' house and have to radically change their relationship with their parents. Often not radically, but sometimes when we get into our 20s, our relationship with our parents change in some way, shape, or form, at least a little bit. And yet we pursue these very same relationship styles unwittingly until we're in the middle of it and we're like calling strangers at midnight asking for advice.
Yeah.
Again, there's no shame in it. That's why we're doing this live stream, this stream. But the point is that that's why I asked about your parents, and it's an interesting context to have. I'm really sorry to hear what you're going through. Again, I sense that I would tie this back again to the white knight thing, the knight in shining armor thing, where it's like,
yeah,
I bet you that the reason a lot of people feel comfortable coming to you and talking to you about things is because you've seen some shit. You've seen some really weird relational dynamics. You've seen a lot. It takes a lot to rock your boat, is my guess. And that's also the reason why it makes sense to me why you're still with this girl, because it takes a lot to rock your boat. And you're very patient and understanding. And you like hearing about people's struggles. And you want to think that people will change, but not all people will change. The vast majority of people will. The vast majority of people can, but some people can't. A small minority of people can't. And you sound really frustrated in this relationship because you sound stuck. And I hear that.
Yeah, and I think what it kind of devolved into me calling you tonight. Like I got off work and I have your notifications on since you've started this thing, just because I like listening in and just whenever I can. But I just got, man, I just been dealing with, I struggle because I think I'm a very animated speaker and like naturally I'm an actor, so it's like I think it kind of comes naturally to be a personable person or just to, have levels in my voice, I guess. But in reality, I feel extraordinarily numb to everything recently. Like at my work, a very popular TV show just came in, and it's a show I've watched my whole life, and like a lot of the cast came in, and I felt nothing, and like I just left, and I'm like, normally, like I was thought like, man, like a couple of years ago I would be like so excited, but I'm like, I just feel like I'm waking up every day and it's just like I'm just numb. Like I can talk to people and I can conversate, but being in this, like just living with this, it I don't feel anything, I guess.
Well,
like I feel guilt, and that kind of just revolves into emptiness.
I hear that, and I do. I want to be really careful with what I'm going to say next because I do sense that you are numb, and I'm not discounting that at all. However, it's so normal to be immune to certain things when you come into your 20s, to be immune to certain things that used to really get you riled up before when you were younger. That's part of what you're telling me sounds like just growing up. It sounds like you really wanted to be starstruck by these people and you weren't, and you were kind of confused by that. Like I would say that you could probably let that go. There's some people, like, I think that's part of that's just growing up. That's not to say that some people don't get, some people, they're like, I've seen, there's exceptions to every rule. I'm not making generalizations, but I relate to what you're saying. I don't get starstruck either, ever. Yeah. I've met so many people that I've just not I'm not going to name names, but I just met so many people. I'm like walked out, after a conversation, I'm just like, wow, I was just like not moved by that at all. And I think part of that's just growing up. So I wouldn't beat yourself up too much over that. It sounds cool. Like, it sounds like you work at a cool place. Be grateful for that. Don't beat yourself up that you're not starstruck by people. I think that's great. It's a sign of maturity.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I was kind of more using that as just like an example, whereas like, I mean, I've lost a desire to improve. I've lost the desire to
See,
take care
yeah,
of
I do
myself.
hear that. That's why
You
I want
know,
to be really
like,
careful. I do hear that. I do hear that.
yeah,
But I don't think the being starstruck
like,
thing is
and
connected.
no, I guess, yeah, that was a bad example.
I'm not railing you. I'm just saying you can. I feel like you can be easy on yourself with that. Is my only point. I'm not saying it's a bad example. I'm
Yeah.
just saying you could probably. I'm trying to give you some. Trying to tell you what I hear in a constructive way. I'm not trying to rail you.
No, I get you. Yeah, I guess it's just like a grayness, just like brushing my teeth is a chore. I'm like, why should I even do it? You know, it's like, so you don't get cavities. And I'm like, oh, so what if I, it's just like, like eating, like feeding myself. I'm like, oh, I got to eat so I am not dead at work. And then I'm like, oh, well, what's the easiest thing? I'm like, oh, no, you should get something that makes you feel good. And then it's like, what's the point? So I'm like it's normally, like, I feel like I've had moments like this where, like, it goes up and down, but this has just been, like what I said, like, it kind of devolved to me tonight where, like, I saw a family and then, like, seeing the family and, like, kind of having a break from the routine, kind of, like, and having a conversation with them. And not even that, like, I've described my relationship with my family. I don't necessarily revere.
Oh boy, we lost the caller. Wonder if I can find them. Oh boy. We lost the caller. I think this was them. I'm going to try calling them back. I might be calling the wrong person. I think this was the last caller.
Your has been forwarded to an automated.
Ooh. I wonder if their phone died. I'm going to call them one more time. There was so much more I wanted to talk about with that person.
Call has been forwarded to an automated.
If everybody can hold up the calls, we're getting a bunch of calls right now. If everybody can just hold up the calls for a few minutes, at least 30 seconds, I'm gonna let this hang for a second. I'm not gonna answer any other calls. I'll tell you when the lines open up again. We're gonna see if this person calls back. I would hate to end it there because I really, really wanted to get into. They're calling back. Hello?
Oh, I don't know what happened.
Oh my gosh! I'm so glad I was calling you. I was like digging for your number and I found it, and I wasn't even sure it was you. We must have been calling each other at the same time. The chat's gonna be so happy. We were all bummed.
I was bummed, man. I just dropped my bag in the middle of the street, and I was like, no.
Somebody in the chat said it sounded like your girlfriend caught you talking to us. Oh boy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the chat's lighting up. We're all happy you're back. Great.
I'm happy to be back. Happy. Where was I? What were we talking about? I lost it.
We were talking about feeling numb and getting older, and we were distinguishing between. I can't remember. I apologize. I got a little shell shocked when I lost you, so I can't remember precisely where we were. But I remember.
Yeah.
I remember you were talking about feeling numb, and maybe it's for the better because I do want to spend some time with you since it seems like you feel stuck. It seems like you feel stuck in this relationship and not sure which way is forward and how to deal with the relationship, how to it sounds like you want to break up with her. Is that right? And you don't know how?
Yeah, no, entirely. That kind of, it's, for a while it was, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I think within the past couple of weeks, maybe months, it's just been a slow process of me just making the decision final and, like, really not seeing any other alternative.
Right. I mean, how, before I go any further, because I'm happy to talk with you about what's been hard, what I'd be interested in hearing from you is like, what's been hard for you about, I mean, you've already shared a little bit, but like what practically would be hard about breaking up with this person? Before we go into some specifics, I'm curious, like, how ready are you to break up with this person? Like, so ready that you would go in and do it tonight or this week, or do you have to wait until your lease is up, or what's the situation?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the cause of this entire crisis is that, like, that's the big question. Like, what do I? So essentially, I don't know how she would react living with me, and then not being with me. Like, I don't know how that would turn out. And we live in a very small apartment, and so it's like, I mean, we have a futon in our living room, so obviously, like, one person would take the futon, the other would take the bedroom, but then, like, feasibly how she would react and how she would treat me and how, like, my living space would become, I have no idea. I don't know if she's going to go off the rails. I don't know if she's going to act out. I don't know if she's just going to get really sad.
Sounds like she might. All of the above.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems like those those aren't coming from nowhere from you. It sounds like that's good insight, and I would have suggested the same things, and here you are saying the same thing. So it sounds about right.
Yeah.
You know, is she paying rent? Helping pay rent?
Yeah, we split rent halfway.
Do you still have a roommate?
No, we live alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
could you afford rent on your own? Could you be like, hey, I'm going to give you the apartment and go get my own smaller place?
The issue is, like, I could afford rent on my own. I can't afford rent on my own while also helping pay rent on this apartment. Like,
and she can't.
That just won't work.
Can she afford the rent on her own? If you could get out of this place, could you get your own place? Could you work? Could you say, hey, we're done. You can either move out or I'm going to move out. One of us has to keep this place. I'll keep this place if you want, or you can keep it. I don't care. I just want to be done. Is that an option?
I don't know. I really don't. Like, I know she has the, like, it's kind of been like a point of contention in our relationship where, like, she has always had, like, decent amount of money and, like, a support network of family, and, like, I'm just scraping by, and so, like, she can, like, I know that financially she could make it work, but she also obsessively thinks she's broke when, like there's literally $1,000 in cash in a drawer that she just won't cash and put in her bank account.
My friend, she does not think she's broke. She does not think she's broke. That's a manipulation tactic.
Yeah. I think so.
If what you're telling us is true.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, I'm not alone in saying that. That's why I feel comfortable doubling down on that, because someone else from the chat, at least one or two other people I saw, commented earlier that on another point we were on like 20 minutes ago, reminded us.
What point?
They reminded you that this person said that they were financially stable. I can't remember the exact term you used, but they were going to be like, they were fine financially. They had support at least, or something. Like,
yeah,
I'm aware of that, and at least one or two other people from the chat remember you alluding to some thought about that earlier. Something she alluded to. So, you know, if there's any possibility that you can either, that you could present this to her like, hey, we're done. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be enemies. I just can't be in a relationship with you anymore. The options are you keep this apartment, or I'll keep it. I don't care. What do you want? But I'm not going to be with you anymore. Do you want this apartment, or do you want to get your own? You know, if that's on the table, if that's possible, which it sounds like it is, and it sounds like you could afford to live on your own. Is that right?
Yeah, if she would cover the rent for that apartment, then yeah, I can make it. Like, what we pay in this double for, like what we, like, split, I mean, and for rent is probably like my portion is about what I would pay normally for like a room with a roommate.
Okay.
Or anywhere else. So it's just, I don't know if she would be down with doing that. Like
Down with breaking up, or down with living alone? Or I mean, it doesn't sound like she's gonna have a choice.
No, down with like taking the apartment and me no longer helping her with rent, and like just being like, I'm gonna find my own place.
Well, if you can afford it, what's the holdup? If you can afford to live on your own somewhere, even if you have to move out. My point is, if you can afford to live in the current apartment alone, if she decides to move out, here's the sequence of events. You're going to break up with her. That's what you're saying, that you want to break up with her. So here's the sequence of events. You have a conversation. We're done. It's not that simple, of course, but the first beat point is that we're done. What's the next decision? What do we do with this apartment? Because we have 3 months left here. Do you want to take that 3 months, or do you want me to take it? I'll take it if you want, and then you give her a choice. I'll take it if you want. I can stay here. One of us has to stay here. Do you want to stay here, or do you want me to stay here? I'm fine with whatever. The choice is yours. That's the second beat point. And then the third beat point is you're free.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's just, I think I hate to say this, but I think just the experience with what I partially alluded to with my sister just kind of makes me brace for the worst.
Right.
And be like, I don't know what, because I've had like my low moments where I've like yelled at her whenever like things have gotten south.
Sure.
Never gotten abusive but like it, and then I'm just afraid because admittedly, like I've had like panic attacks where I've self-harmed in front of her, and like my version of self-harm is like slamming my head against something. And that is something that I hadn't done since I was 14. Like when I was real young. And that is something that came up again. And it was the first red flag that I saw was I need to get out of here. But then now I kind of am definitely afraid of that being weaponized against me. And then being told that like I'm manipulative. Because she has definitely used that against me in arguments where she was like, well, you did this and then you self-harmed in front of me. What am I supposed to do? And I'm like, like I was literally like, couldn't breathe. And I'm like struggling because we would have like these arguments where I'm like just trying to get her to say, I'm sorry for something that is so blatantly rude or like upsetting. And she just refuses to. And it kind of just devolves into this me like losing it. Like I would just like it's happened like a couple times where I would just like
totally hear you. Yeah, and you know what? You're probably 100% right. She may do that stuff. She very well may. That's actually extremely, extremely common when you're dealing with a manipulative person. When the relationship's over, they trash your reputation. It happens to a lot of people. It's happened to me in relationships. It's happened to people in this chat in relationships. I know that because a lot of these people have said as much in previous streams. That's very, very common. In fact, it's more common than not. But you're in this relationship. It sounds like you're not going to stay in this relationship for the rest of your life. You're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off and deal with it.
Yeah.
And you know what'll happen is some people will believe her. But your best friends won't, and you're about to learn who your best friends are. And your life will be probably hard for a few months, at least, depending on how enmeshed your relationships are together. You might have some falling outs with some people. Again, I've gone through that. I know what that's like. It's hard. Some of those relationships never get repaired. But that's not a reason to stay in the relationship. Now, here are... if you're okay with it, I would like to pivot from here to
Please.
talking about my favorite fast food chains. That's a joke. No, I want to pivot to talking about some practical tips for this conversation you're going to have with this girl. Not that you have to, but it sounds like, I'm using your words, it sounds like you're at this place where you feel like you have to break up with her and you don't know how. So if you're okay with it, I want to pivot to what that conversation looks like. Is that all right with you?
No, please.
Okay.
I love that.
So I want to highlight something first. Some people in the chat are recommending that you record some things around the breakup. Some people in the chat are suggesting that. You have to be very careful about recording people without them knowing it. There's a law called there's privacy laws, and some don't tell me where you are, but some states are exempt from privacy laws. There's like a handful of states, and you could look this up. There's a law that exists in like 5 states. It's called a one-party consent. And if you live in like one of 5 states, there's a law that applies called one-party consent, which is it's ethically questionable in some cases, but in cases like yours, it actually comes in a lot of it can be very useful, and it can be life-saving in some cases. Basically, one-party consent means that you can record someone as long as one party has consented to the recording. That means if two people are in a conversation and as long as one person knows it's being recorded, it's totally legal. Which, like, how the hell does that make any sense as a law? But like in your case,
Yeah.
I don't know what state you're in. Please don't tell us. But you could Google this, one-party consent, and then your state, and then it'll tell you if the state you're in is a one-party consent state. And if you are in a one-party consent state, what the chat is telling you here could be very, very valuable and could save you years of agony and heartbreak and losing friendships. That could very well be the case. But again, it's only like 5 states in the U.S. that have this one-party consent rule. So you might look that up and determine if recording your partner without their knowing is safe. Now, there are other loopholes. I'm not a lawyer. There are some other cases where you can record people without them knowing it. If you feel you're in danger, for example, if you feel it's going to go to court, there's. Don't take anything I'm telling you as legal advice, please. I'm not a lawyer, but you might do some Googling to figure out in what case you could record some conversations, maybe specifically the breakup. Maybe there's a way you could record the breakup so that if it ever comes into question how you broke up, you have it recorded. And be like, you could show it to a judge, worst case scenario, and be like, Judge, here's the recording of how I broke up. There was no violence. There was no abuse. It was amicable, respectful. She moved out. There was no problem. I don't know what she's talking about. So a little tangent there on one-party consent. Separately from that, someone from the chat earlier, I can't remember who it was, and it's irrelevant. They mentioned that when you're in this conversation of breaking up, to keep the conversation to I statements. I guess they meant like keep it to things like, I feel like when you do X, I feel ABC. I want you to, when you see that comment in the chat replay later, I want you to disregard that comment. I can't remember who said it. It's no disrespect to whoever said it, but I want you to disregard that comment because it's not what you need to hear right now. It's not going to help you. You don't want to say I before pretty much anything in this conversation with this person because this person's going to take anything you say, I feel, and just exploit it super hard. So, go ahead.
Sorry to butt in.
No, go ahead.
You saying that kind of like made me react viscerally because when you said that any argument we get into, she explicitly requires that it's in that format. And you saying that you can immediately use that to manipulate someone is kind of like made me just like, I lost my breath for a second.
That's right. That's why I told you not to do it. I'm going to give you a better trick, and she won't even know what you're doing when you're doing it. I'm going to give you a better. This is experience talking with dealing with narcissists, people with BPD, histrionic. You name it. I've had to lay down some boundaries. Pretty much, like you don't want to say I feel anything. It's the opposite of what you want to say.
Yeah.
You want to say it sounds like XYZ. You don't want to say it feels like anything. In some cases you could say it seems like, but 80% of the time, 80% of the time, if you're expressing yourself, you want to say, it sounds like, and then say what it sounds like. Because then you're saying it, you're not talking about a person. And this is not voodoo I'm talking. This is not like some like voodoo stuff. This is like negotiation 101 stuff I'm talking about here. When you say it, the other person automatically they're not hearing you say I. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about, oh, what is it? You know, they're thinking about the it. And so it's subtle, but it could save your life. I had to. I'm sorry. Maybe 7 people get that. It's subtle, but it works. If you say it automatically, like it just totally bypasses it short circuits the manipulation. So you want to say it sounds like. Sometimes it seems like works, but again, seems is like your perception.
I'm on the phone.
Yo, which one's going to 250?
He's talking to someone. Give him a sec.
Yeah, sorry. What is that? I don't know. I'm sorry. So sorry about that.
You getting hit up for money?
Yeah, essentially.
Did you tell him it sounds like you're hard up for money?
Yeah. He's asking for directions and then asking money. I'm like, so you didn't need directions.
Someone from the chat's asking for an example, so I hope you don't mind I elaborate a little bit. Like, if you're saying...
Oh, yeah.
If you need to say, you know, if what you're trying to say is, I don't feel like this relationship... Now, I'm going to give you an example of a time you'd say, it seems like. If you're trying to say, I don't feel like this relationship has any future or can grow beyond where we are now, you would say, instead of that, it's very simple. You would just say, it seems like, and again, it's going to be you're going to be tempted to say, it seems to me. Don't say me. Don't say I. Don't say anything. You just say, it seems like this relationship has no future. Or that's a harsh way to say it. You know, you could say it can't grow any further. It seems like this relationship can't grow any further. It sounds like actually still works. It sounds like this relationship can't grow any further. It's a basic example. Instead of saying, I feel like this relationship can't grow any further. First of all, that's a bad way to approach it for 2 reasons. Because 1, it can be manipulated, to your point from earlier, and 2, it's open to challenging. Because if it's only how you feel, then it's open for her to say, well, I don't feel that way. I feel like we've been making so much progress. I feel like, and then she'll start crying, and like it's game over. You're back at square one. If you keep it to it statements, it keeps it objective. Keeps it objective. You're dealing with somebody that will manipulate you if you make it too personal. So your challenge here is to approach this conversation as impersonally as possible and to keep it there. She's going to try to make it personal, and you're going to have to stay on your guard. There's actually there's a book I want to recommend to you that it's a lot of what I'm quoting here. It's from a book called Never Split the Difference. Oh, wait a second. So Deanna Krebs, who's a lawyer, she's one of our mods. She says that federal law requires only one party give consent. So apparently, and I would look this up. I would still not take this as a recommendation since you're dealing with like a bunch of strangers here on a YouTube channel. Deanna Krebs is a lawyer, but I would still look that up. But that actually does make sense because the case in point is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Like you're in a smaller, not smaller like less important, but like much less expensive version of Johnny Depp Amber Heard right now. And they have been recording each other for years and taking pictures, and so that makes total sense. Of course, they're not in a federal court, but it makes sense that one party consent.
Yeah.
I do think it depends. I think there's a difference if it's a phone call versus recording someone in person. I think there may be a distinction there. Again, please don't take any of this as recommendations or prescriptions. Please look this stuff up. We're trying to give you some good food for thought. One party consent is a thing. And I'm not going to tell you how to use it. You might have to do some due diligence on your part to learn how to use it. Please be very careful, is my point. But this
Yeah.
book, Never Split the Difference, by Chris Voss, is life-changing. It's a book about negotiation. It's written by Chris Voss is retired FBI hostage negotiator. So he was number one in the world. Like, they would send him to all the highest stakes hostage negotiations all over the freaking world. And his book is called Never Split the Difference. His whole premise is that that all the previous negotiation advice of the last 50 years is bullshit. That for the last 50 years, people have been saying every negotiation is about compromise and win-win scenarios and conceding and all these things, concessions, all these things. And the whole premise of this book is that that's bullshit, because in a hostage negotiation, like in a high stakes situation, forget the hostage thing. In a high stakes situation, one person gets what they want and the other person doesn't. The other person walks. And that's the whole premise of this book. And so he gives a lot of good tactics about using English, just using words in general, and how to deal with volatile people. It's not about dealing with psychopaths necessarily, but then again, like, what kinds of people take hostages? This book is it transcends all kinds of issues. So I'm going to throw this in the chat for you and for anybody else who may want to check it out. Let's see. Never Split the Difference. And there is a great audiobook. I'm not a fan of most audiobooks, but there's a great audiobook of this on Audible. It's probably my favorite audiobook. So in terms of, like, I'm very particular. I don't know if that makes sense when I'm saying favorite audiobook. I tend to read things. I don't like audiobooks, but this audiobook is great, is what I'm trying to say. So you could easily listen to this over the next day or two. If you're not trying to pull any fastballs tonight, you could just listen to this in your earbuds secretly, and then take some notes and kind of build your case as you get closer to this conversation with your girlfriend.
Definitely. No, I'll definitely take that in hand. Appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you. I mean, feel like not gonna lie, my phone's been blowing up. She's wondering where I am.
Oh boy, there we go. She's checking in on you. She knows you're not home. You should tell her you're on a YouTube chat trying to figure out how to break up with her. That'll end it pretty quickly.
No, I'm gonna send her the link. Yo, you remember the guy that made Mulk?
Oh my god, that would be so funny. He's telling me to break up with you. Please don't tell her that.
No, I won't.
I'm not telling you to do anything, to be clear. You're telling us you want to break up with her and you don't know how. So we're trying to give you some food for thought.
You have not told me any, you've told me new information, yes, but you have not convinced me of anything. I guess I should say.
Off course, Armad says, off course says, hope she's not a Julian Smith fan. She's going to come after me next.
She's not. Oh my God, no, she definitely is not keen into the YouTube sphere as I am. So, luckily. GTO 913 from the chat says, record this conversation when she asks where you are. Again, please don't take that as a recommendation. You might look at if that's legal. I don't know where you are. Please don't tell us. But not a bad idea. If you could maybe put on voice notes, put it in your pocket, walk in the house. Don't even call. Maybe, I don't know how close you are. Maybe you don't have. It's definitely illegal to call people and record them in some states. That's definitely illegal in some states. Yeah. You might just put voice notes recorder on in your pocket, walk in the house, and don't call her. Let the conversation happen as soon as you walk in. Leave it in your pocket. Don't take it out. Let it record everything, and just record her. Don't record her. Record the conversation for your records in case anything happens, and also for your own memory, so you can feel better. So you don't have second thoughts later. No, for sure. No, thank you so much, Julian. You have cleared my mind more than I feel like I could have expected. So I appreciate it so much.
Well, we appreciate you. And Claire from the chat wants me to communicate how proud we all are of you. And I do believe that we all here are very proud of how you're thinking about this and how level-headed you've been. And also, what a good, let's end on a positive note. You are not a sucker.
Yeah.
You're not a sucker. You are a really loyal person, and you're a person who's a really good friend, and you've been through a lot of shit in your life, and you told us that you're the kind of, you just seem to, like, people just come to you and talk about their problems. So, like, you are, if you can survive this with your girlfriend without sacrificing that part of yourself, I just think that would be the goal here, because you're not a sucker.
Yeah.
You can't lose that part of yourself.
For sure.
So,
I agree.
thanks for calling, and take care of yourself. And I'm looking forward to a positive update from you. I know we're going to get one from this. This is great news in my book.
Wait, real quick. What I heard the Discord. You have a Discord. I'm not in it.
Oh.
What's the information for that?
Link in the video description. It's also
it's in the video.
It's also all over the chat. The mods are posting it all the time. The link is in the video description.
Okay.
Please join us. We'd love to have you. Well, that'd be a great place for an update.
I will. I'd love to do it, and I just have to give the obligatory thank you for all of your videos throughout the years. It's been a constant source of happiness and enjoyment in my life.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it so much. Great talking with you.
Of course, man.
You're a smart guy.
You as well.
Take care. I told you this was going to be a long conversation.
It really was.
I told you right out of the gate.
Walked on.
It was great. I enjoyed every minute
Didn't disappoint.
I always feel weird saying I enjoy these conversations, but I really truly do. It's not that I enjoy that you're suffering, because I don't enjoy that part, but I do enjoy, enjoy maybe a bad word, but I just enjoy, maybe it makes me a weirdo, but I enjoy going to these places and hearing what people are going through and trying to figure out creative ways to deal with them. So thanks for using this space in that way. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, man. You too. Have a good night.
Good night. Alrighty, chat. Great night. My goodness, I think this is a record. We had 3 damn callers tonight. That is definitely a record for this stream. 3 hours, 3 callers. Give me a damn break. That makes me, like, it's not to say that I enjoy the episodes where we connect with lots of callers too, but, like, holy cow, 3 hour-long conversations in a row? No toasts? What the hell is happening? I'd say we're getting this down to a science. Amazing. Chat, thank you so much for all the great ideas. The chat is always a great resource for these callers to revisit later on, so thanks for throwing all of your thoughts in there. Of course, we never know what the callers are actually experiencing, but that's the point of the chat, is we can throw things in there and they can sift through them and pick up the pieces that are helpful as they continue their experience. So it's so valuable when you guys do that, and I love seeing how respectful everybody is of each other in this place. Massive thank you to our mods. Tonight we had Offcore, Deanna Krebs, Jake Cooper, Easy Cheesy, and it looks like that's it. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for the amazing toast birthday present. And tonight we are going to close on that very same image because it's just so great. I just love this picture. We're going to end tonight on this damn picture. I just laughed so hard seeing this. Thank you guys so much for this picture. We'll see you guys on Sunday, 9 p.m. Central. It will not be my birthday on Sunday unless I happen to have another one randomly. That would be weird. Thanks, guys, for a great night. See you then. Also, there's going to be another prank stream, possibly this weekend. Keep an eye on your YouTube feed. There's probably going to be more prank streams. You don't know when it's going to happen. Keep your eyes peeled.